is 5 Live Sport
with Steve Crossman.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
We're live in Budapest at the Hungarian Grand Prix. It's been McLaren's season, but Ferrari have a first pole of the year.
It's provisional pole for Charles Leclerc. What a lap for the Monegasque in the Ferrari. It's second for Piastri. Ferrari almost can't believe it. Charles Leclerc is going to be on pole position.
His teammate Lewis Hamilton starts from 12th and he is not happy.
I'm just useless.
So say again?
I'm just useless.
But that isn't obviously the case.
It clearly is. Just drove terribly. It is what it is.
Do you just not feel comfortable in the car in that part of quali? Did something change?
Nothing changed.
Full commentary from here in Budapest on 5 Live at 2 o'clock. After that, Celtic launched their title defence against St Mirren. Good afternoon. Welcome to Sunday's 5 Live Sport, live from beautiful, sunny and hot Budapest. We're at the Hungaroring for the 40th anniversary Hungarian Grand Prix. A little bit closer to race time, we will be live from the grid. Now, I'm not making any big promises here, but there's a few big celebrities in town. Don't be surprised if you hear live from a Jason Momoa, maybe a Jamie Dornan. Even toward the top of the list, could Zendaya be live on 5 Live today? I'm going to say it's unlikely, but they're all here. All of the big names are in Hungary. So we've got loads of great F1 content to bring you. We basically commandeered almost a table tennis table next to us so we can set up in the shade. It is that sweltering hot here this afternoon. So you've just heard Lewis Hamilton isn't happy. We'll hear from him properly shortly. We'll hear from all of the big names. You'll get Oscar Piastri, the championship leader. You'll hear from Lando Norris, the Brit looking to become the third Brit this century to win the world title. He starts from third today behind Piastri and behind, staggeringly really, Charles Leclerc. Right now we're in the paddock, so we can see down this long stretch, it's almost like an airplane runway, all of the big teams of Formula One. Think of it like the super fancy supercar garage that you might drive past a few times a year when you're in a particularly fancy suburb of the town or city you live in. A massive Ferrari area, a huge papaya-coloured, their word, McLaren garage, the big Red Bull energy centre that they call it. They're all right in front of us here. Drivers will appear and disappear. Right now they'll be going on a parade, like an open-top bus tour of the Hungaroring, so they can wave at all the fans. We'll hear from Bernd Mailander, the F1 safety car driver, a little bit later. We should be hearing as well from Mercedes driver George Russell. He should be joining us within the next hour before the Grand Prix on 5 Live Sport. He starts fourth this afternoon. We've got loads of other great live sport going on as well. The football season until just after 2 p.m. Right, we're live in Hungary, the Hungarian Grand Prix, lights out at 2 o'clock, on the grid live, speaking to team principals. Laurent Mekies, the team principal at Red Bull, is going to be with us live on the programme. Now, unfortunately, we've lost our table tennis table, because as you can hear, the professionals need to actually play. I just tried to volley the ball away, and I think I've lost it. I'm sorry about that. Oh, look, it's the Formula One team. Harry Benjamin, commentator, hello.
You've completely ruined their table tennis game.
It was the worst volley of all time, that, wasn't it?
It was terrible. They found the ball again. They're back going now. But it's all part of the fun in the Hungarian paddock here.
It's a beautiful sight. We've just finished with the traditional Hungarian folk music. The thing is, Jenny Gow, I'm not sure it was quite appropriate for the high speed and drama of Formula One.
Yeah, and I'm reckoning, out of Sam and Harry, I think one of them probably took music lessons, piano lessons when they were younger. I reckon now the musicians have gone. Harry, do you want to sneak in and give us a bit of a tune? Go on, do it.
I mean, my instrument was the tuba, and I don't think they've really got one there. So, sadly, I was more into my brass instruments than what they've got there.
You know I love you. You got tuba written all over you, mate.
No one else wanted to play it, so they made me.
Well, I think we all know who the coolest guy in town is, and that is McLaren Formula E driver Sam Bird. Will be alongside Harry for commentary. Afternoon.
I could play the triangle.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about my level.
Right. So there's no way you were the guy who was given the triangle. Or maybe that's like the rags to riches story of Sam Bird. One day played the triangle, ended up in a super fast car.
Do you know what? My old headmaster saw me auditioning for the choir one time, and he grabbed me, pulled me out of the room and just said, "You're not a choir boy, get on the sports field."
So that's our amazing team here at the Hungaroring. Ellie, tell us what's happening.
Ollie Pope, yes, he was looking so nicely set. 106 for 3.
Thank you very much, Ellie. All right, Sam, driver's perspective. I'll ask you that a lot today. The Hungaroring, is it the kind of circuit that these guys love?
It's the kind of circuit that people love to try and qualify at. It's got a great flow to it, but I think racing in the pack today will be extremely tricky. We've got 70 laps ahead of us, and do you know what? I think the talk of the town is, firstly, what an incredible job Charles Leclerc did yesterday and how difficult it was for Lewis Hamilton. Looking ahead to today, it's all going to be about tyres and what compounds people start on, and also what tyres they've got left, because a lot of people are struggling for tyres out there.
Jen, you love this place, you love this city, don't you?
I do. It's an amazing place to come to. There's so much heritage, there's so much culture. The architecture is beautiful. And you get a real vibe because everyone stays downtown. It's quite rare for the whole F1 paddock to go from here to the Hungaroring and then move to the city and all stay in a mile square foot. But actually that's what happens. So you might be at dinner, and sometimes you have dinner with a driver. I mean, you can say that you've had dinner with...
What, Sam Bird?
Yeah. The one that everyone's dying for, that invite, but he's ours this weekend. But yeah, you can say you've had dinner with a driver. You were sharing a restaurant basically, but that's okay. And you just get a lot of fun from this city and this racetrack.
Right, so before we start hearing from anyone, and it'll be Lewis Hamilton first, Harry, let's just explain how what happened to him happened.
Well,
if we can.
Well, I don't think he can. That's the issue. It was another poor qualifying effort from Lewis Hamilton in the Ferrari. Whilst his teammate is on pole position, Hamilton couldn't even get through into the top 10 for qualifying. He was knocked out in 12th position. And it's the third consecutive time he's not made it through to the top 10. Last couple of times he hasn't made it past the first point of qualifying. Lewis Hamilton, there's just something not right with him in that car at the moment. He is at a loss to explain what's going on. I think the summer break that's right around the corner is going to be much needed for him, but there's a lot of question marks right now about what is going wrong for Lewis, especially in qualifying with that Ferrari.
Right, let's find out how he answered those questions then. This is Lewis Hamilton speaking to Lawrence Barretto.
Hey Lewis, the pace in the car looked alright yesterday, looked okay again in FP3, so what happened in quali?
I'm just useless.
So say again?
I'm just useless.
But that isn't obviously the case.
It clearly
you're not.
is.
What?
Just drove terribly. It is what it is.
Do you just not feel comfortable in the car in that part of quali? Did something change?
Nothing changed.
Alright, bad luck, Lewis.
It's kind of astonishing, Sam, isn't it? And I know Lewis Hamilton is quite reactive in the moment sometimes and quite emotional in the moment, but even for him...
Yeah, even for him, this was a low. I don't think I've ever heard him sound quite that despondent, but these modern cars are just not suiting his driving style.
Yeah, he hasn't got on. Let's remember the last couple of years with Mercedes as well. He wasn't exactly firing on all cylinders either. George Russell was showing him up, and this was supposed to be a new lease of life. Look, we can give him a bit of grace, like all new drivers when they come into a new team. You've got to get used to your new surroundings, new buttons on the steering wheel, new team members. And he's not just coming into any team. He's come into Ferrari. It's an institution. It's a whole new culture. However, we also have to take in mind that it's 2026. It's next year when we have a big regulation reset. That's why Lewis Hamilton has joined Ferrari. Yes, he'll be so frustrated that he's still not able to get this right now from the car, but it's not over until next year. That's why Lewis Hamilton is at Ferrari.
Guys, let's walk. Let's go. Let's walk down the paddock here. So like I said before, just think of a runway. It's stretching all the way into the distance. You could almost actually see the heat haze at the end of it. Later on, when we're on the grid, we'll probably see those massive ice cube vests that the guys have to wear. And already we've arrived outside Ferrari. So we've got their hospitality to the right-hand side. It's quite a quiet place. It's sort of like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. No one ever goes in. No one ever goes out. Or certainly no one on our level.
Well, actually, I believe Sam Bird, just before here, was having a little mosey in Ferrari, weren't you?
I know, but I had to leave my nice coffee, espresso, Italian espresso with Jerome D'Ambrosio, to come and do this with you.
Who's Jerome D'Ambrosio, sorry?
He's Fred Vasseur's number 2. So if Fred is away or he deputises effectively.
So assistant to the team principal or assistant team principal, depending on which version of The Office you've seen.
Yeah, exactly. He's deputy team principal. Jerome D'Ambrosio actually used to be a Formula 1 driver, and he's had an amazing career. He was deputy over at Mercedes. He's jumped over to Ferraris a couple of times where he's been in charge of that team. And again, it kind of highlights actually the almost restructuring that's going on at Ferraris. They're trying to get more long-term commitment. Look, they were fighting McLaren for the Constructors' Championship all the way to the end of the season last year. We now arrive halfway through this year. McLaren are more than double the amount of points ahead of Ferrari. So whilst they lie second in the Constructors, there are some big question marks going on there as to how they are so far behind.
Let's spin it back to Lewis Hamilton then, Jenny. And it's interesting because that was an astonishing kind of 20 seconds, but you also had the chance to speak to him as well. So just give us an idea of what we can't hear there, the sort of the look behind the eyes.
You're always slightly terrified when Lewis has had a bad performance out on track because you know it's going to be hard work getting something out of him. But you have to stand there in the firing line and just ask those questions. And yesterday, it was so hard to even hear what he was saying. And his face was down. He was like kicking his feet on the AstroTurf that lies beneath him and that media pen. And he did not want to be there. That much was very evident. He did answer some questions further down the line with Lawrence Barretto. You heard him say how it was all on him. And they step out the car from qualifying, go to the weighing scales, get weighed, something that no man wants to do at the best of times, but they're athletes, so it's okay. Then they come straight to us and have to answer our questions. They go round the world's media answering pretty much the same question throughout. And you have to feel for him at that point in time. He just wants to go and bury his head somewhere, yet he has to say, I did a terrible job and it's on him. And it was uncomfortable.
It was uncomfortable, but he won't let that work into today. He will reset and Lewis Hamilton will bounce back, and that is one thing he's good at, is keeping a positive mentality. And if there's one little thing he can take some solace from, here's a stat for you. 36 years ago at the 1989 Hungarian Grand Prix, Nigel Mansell for Ferrari started in 12th position and he went on to win the race. Now I'm not sure that's going to quite happen today, but there's a little bit of solace there for Lewis Hamilton.
Jenny, we might see some drivers any second because their big parade has just finished.
Yes, so before a race, a couple of hours before, they go round the track on the back of a flatbed lorry, basically. It looks good, but they're just coming out from that and they'll go through the garages and then you'll have a whole horde of F1 drivers walking at you. So I just wanted you to be aware that you're in the thoroughfare. They might go behind the race engineers, but they might come in front of the garages, which will be right in our direction.
Right, well, let's hear then from Charles Leclerc while we've got time, shall we? Of course, he's the man on pole, putting in an incredible lap, and then he spoke to Jen.
Charles, what an amazing pole position. I mean, did you see it coming?
Absolutely not. Really not. I was like, okay, that's as good as a lap can be in those conditions, because honestly it was so difficult out there in Q3 and I had to reset a bit all expectations. And I was like, okay, that should be good enough for P3, I hope, but I was expecting to be just like FP1, FP2, FP3, 3/4 tenths off McLaren. But then I've heard P1, and that was by far, I think, the most surprising pole position of my career.
Do you think this is a signal of something to come, or do you think it was a condition? What plays into this, and how does it make you feel going forward?
I don't know. Today I'm a bit lost. I did not expect that. I mean, I don't know from where it comes from, because I don't think any of us expected to be on pole position. But wherever it comes from, it's a positive sign to be able to finally be on pole position, and I think it's for sure the result of the hard work the team has done. We've brought an upgrade in Spa, which was good in Spa, which also works well here. That also gave me the confidence to do a really good lap in Q3, and the combination of both of those things made us being in pole position for tomorrow. So yeah, I'm really happy.
That's Charles Leclerc, and we've timed this perfectly because we've just had going past us some of the drivers. I can see Lance Stroll is there, the Aston Martin driver on the back of a scooter. They love a scooter here. We've just got to get out of the way of Carlos Sainz, who's on a white bicycle, who's gone past. Max Verstappen is walking by as well. Ricardo Bortoletto, Sauber driver's just given him a hug. There's Nico Hülkenberg as well. He's on a scooter. We're going to speak to George Russell a little bit later as well. But you were right, Jenny. This is very much the place to be right now.
I thought you'd like this fact because we all look at the drivers, and certainly Lewis Hamilton, when he first got his scooter that he uses, it's just a normal scooter that you have to push along. Everyone's like, oh, Lewis on a scooter, why is he doing that? But actually, the first man to do it in this paddock, you have to go back to Michael Schumacher, a good friend of Sam Bird's, champion a few times, and he had a scooter, and it helped him to get about the paddock and not be absolutely mobbed by fans. And now it seems, fast forward 30-40 years, and everyone's got a scooter. So it wasn't Lewis Hamilton. You have to go back to Michael Schumacher. Well, seeing as we're talking about Charles Leclerc, maybe we'll get lucky and either he or Lewis Hamilton will suddenly appear and walk past us. But Sam Bird, this is the question that only you can answer. How does a driver like Charles Leclerc in a McLaren-dominated season pull out a lap like that?
Well, I think the conditions changed and favoured him rather than the McLarens. The wind did a complete 180. At the end of Q2 going into Q3, the clouds came over as well, dropped the track temperature, and the car all of a sudden suited the Ferrari more than it did the McLaren. It's as simple as that. The McLarens dropped 0.6 from Q2 to Q3. The Ferrari roughly stayed on similar pace, and therefore it jumped the McLarens.
Have I told you, speaking of the scooters, my Fernando Alonso story yet?
No, do tell.
So yesterday, I'm walking through the paddock, and this scooter just appeared from nowhere and darted right in front of me. I mean, it only brushed my shoulder, but that was only because I dodged out of the way. I swear, I was turning round to shout "Oi!" and then realised it was Fernando Alonso. I'm quite a bit taller than him, Harry, but I still wouldn't have backed myself.
Fernando Alonso has quite a presence, despite his slightly smaller stature than yours. It's the eyes. They're quite piercing, and you very much know you're talking to Fernando Alonso. I would have loved to have seen you turn around and go "Oi!" and have some sort of bust up in the pit lane. That would have been absolutely fantastic. But I think you did the right thing on that one. I think you avoided trouble. And
just on Leclerc then, Harry, how easy or difficult is it? Well, it's not easy, but how difficult is it to turn P1 in qualifying here into a race win?
Well, it's happened, actually in the last 4 races, pole position has not converted to the win here at the Hungaroring, because strategy really can pay dividends here. It will be tricky for Charles Leclerc to keep those 2 McLarens at bay. He has got the best view in the house down to turn 1, but he's got Oscar Piastri who will be alongside him, and he'll actually have the inside run down to turn 1, which will give him a good chance at making the overtake there. If Leclerc can hold on till around about turn 3, which is a left-hander, then he should be okay to keep those McLarens behind until we get to the pit stops. Piastri will have quicker race pace, we think, and if he wants to stop first, that's an undercut, and try and get benefit of free air and quicker lap time, that's where Leclerc and Ferrari could come unstuck today.
And Sam Bird, you are a McLaren driver, and the McLaren hospitality is just down the road. We're going to let both of you go for a little bit. So what's the plan for you? Just sort of go in there, they'll make a fuss of you, you get a lovely meal.
The plan, we've already had a lovely lunch supplied by McLaren, myself and Harry Benjamin. The plan for me now, get ready in the comms box, and hopefully everybody will be joining us live when it's lights out.
Next time I see you, I want it to be on a papaya-coloured scooter.
Why not?
Sam Bird and Harry Benjamin, your commentary team, much more to come from them, much more to come from Jenny Gow. We've got Bernd Mailander, the F1 safety car driver, coming up later this hour. He has led more Grand Prix laps than anybody else in history. We are also going to be speaking, can confirm, to Mercedes driver George Russell inside the next 20 minutes or so on 5 Live. We'll be on the grid from half an hour before race start. We're underway in the Hungarian Grand Prix from beautiful Budapest at 2 o'clock. Let's go back to the Oval now, and Ellie Oldroyd.
Yes, the cloud cover is over.
Stockport 1, Bolton 0.
Right, let's hear then from the man who has led more laps of a Grand Prix than anybody else in history. And he spoke to me behind the big glass doors just to my right-hand side. Now, that might sound like a big claim, most laps in history. It's actually not even close, because Bernd Mailander has been driving the safety car in Formula One for 25 years. It's very nearly half of his life. I think of all the questions that I've asked this week and will ask today, the most obvious answer was always going to be to this one. What is the best part of your job?
Driving, still driving, absolutely. As an ex-race driver, I always would say, yeah, driving. If you are behind the steering wheel, enjoying, feeling the limit, feeling the speed. I always say the best races are without a safety car. Personally, I not get paid by lap. I get paid to be here for the weekend. If I have nothing to do, it's a good weekend because there's no crashes, no deployment of a safety car.
How fast are you actually going? Because I think it's quite deceptive, because an F1 car slowing down is not like any other car slowing down.
Top speed for me in miles per hour, it's on about 180.
And they're still moaning.
And then, well, not at 300. Go slower than 90 miles, they start to complaining the safety car is too slow on a straight because they want to go quicker to keep their performance in the tires, on the brakes. They have a different situation like I have. But in the end, the safety car is deployed if something happens.
So in 25 years, who've been the biggest moaners?
Lewis was complaining a lot, many times.
Right.
I tried to find him always in the mirror, in the blind spots, and that's not easy because he was gambling with me. Max sometimes, he's also pushing. Yeah, but it's absolutely fine. They know the rules. But we are talking about a Formula One driver. They know all the rules. But for sure, they are on the track to win the race. In the end, they have all more or less my number. They can call me, they can see me on the next day or on the next driver's briefing, talk about this. And believe me, in 25 years, not even one driver came back to me and said, "Edmund, can you explain me this? What happens?" Because they know it, but they are so under pressure, on focus to win the race or to do the best restart. That's completely normal. That's, for me, absolutely fine and no problem.
You will have seen some tough things as well. You know, the reason the safety car is out there is often, always, something bad has happened. So it must be tough as well. You know, you must have had really difficult moments.
I had some for sure, some difficult moments, but I think it's even harder for the medical car because the medical car get deployed if something big happens. You have to feel it. You have to know what you have to do and try to make the best out of it. I remember when we deployed by Kubica's accident in 2007, if I'm right, in Montreal, we expected a much bigger problem for Robert at that time. And when we get the information that he's okay, that's fantastic because after such a big accident, you expect something else. And sometimes you don't know what's happened to the drivers or what happens to the people that are involved. For me, you have to cover your job. You have to protect the people around the incident or accident, whatever happens. You have to protect the drivers behind you. You have to show them what they have to do. You can do it or you can't do it, but for sure there have big moments, big accidents. In a couple of races was really hard, but you have to handle this in your racing life, let's say.
What is the strangest moment that you've had, the strangest incident that has required you to be out there in the safety car?
Well, for sure, yeah. I can't remember really which year it was, but it was the guy who was running in Silverstone on the track, who made a protest. He came back in the same year, I think, in Hockenheim for the German Grand Prix to get a radio call from the race director, from Charlie Whiting at that time. There's a fan is running on the track. I said, a fan is running? I never get this. Safety car deploy immediately. That was very strange because you don't think about a situation like that. You think about many situations, aquaplaning, accident, whatever, but not that a person is running on the track make a protest against Formula One. That was completely new for me. Yeah, big moments can every time happen. That's motor racing, but you have to be prepared as good as possible.
Were you nervous before your first one?
I'm still nervous.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm still nervous because I think you have to have the focus on it, the attention, and to double check always everything what you are doing time-wise, because I'm really related to timings, to be on the right time on the grid, to leave the grid on the right time, to be in the parking position, to listen to the radio, what's going exactly on, to confirm everything. And that's also why I have a co-driver with me, because there are so many things are going on in the background, and you need someone who is, it's like an airplane cockpit. I explain this all the time, like an airplane cockpit, you have a pilot and a co-pilot. Okay, Richard, he don't have my steering wheel, but he's checking out if everything works in the right way, in the right direction, if you're not missing anything, and that's very important. And it's, in the end, it's great. That's why I'm still nervous. We are sitting together right now with big clouds over us. Clouds, there are maybe starts to rain. So just this attention gives me even more attention.
In that case, I'll only ask you one more question, because I know you're always on standby. Who are you when you're not driving the safety car? And the reason I ask that is you're 54? So that means you've been driving the safety car for almost half of your life.
Yeah, that's numbers where you think about, okay, is this really true? Yeah, nearly half of my life, a third of Formula One, because we're celebrating 75 years Formula One. So you cover that's tough numbers. So it's crazy in one way, but yeah, well, my normal life would be I would be a salesman. That's just a part of my business, what I'm doing. Formula One, I'm doing many other things. I'm producing wine. I like that, and everything is a little bit related to safety. Not the wine, but everything else. And that's my life. And but really, on top of this, it's my family. Everyone thinks that, yeah, for sure, my kids, they've been on many racetracks. No, that's not true. They will be, at the first time in their life, they are 7.5, on the racetrack in Sanford, so for the next race. And that's a big moment for me, to bring my family the first time in my life to a racetrack.
And is the wine good?
The wine is really good, believe me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
That's Bernd Mailander, F1 safety car driver. Here is one of the guys with us now who's competing for actual points. Mercedes, George Russell, how's it going?
Yeah, good. I hope we're competing for more than just points, but yeah, points make the prizes, I guess.
We're currently in the 30 metres or so as we walk and talk before the fans will probably go a bit crazy and start trying to mob you. How do you deal as a driver with all the attention and the scrutiny and the love?
I'm not too sure, to be honest. We're very fortunate that what we do, people love it, and it's obviously a sport I've loved my whole life, and now obviously the last few years, hi guys, it's been getting more and more popular of a sport, so that's really cool. But yeah, obviously we're here to do a job, and that's to try and drive fast.
I was just walking past and through your garage, and I saw they've got the hat of the late great Niki Lauda up there, which is a lovely touch. It paints a picture of a real family environment. Tell us what it means to you to be part of that Mercedes environment.
Yeah, so I mean, Mercedes have so much history, and of course Niki was a huge part of the team many years ago, and somebody who I got the pleasure of meeting on a number of occasions, and such a great person, such an inspiration, and of course we still think of him every weekend.
Toto Wolff is obviously the head of this family on the track. That it's you, especially this season. So has that brought extra responsibility, or are you able to kind of keep that laser dead-eyed focus that you need to look after number one?
Well, I think you've always got to focus on just getting the maximum for you and your team. Of course, this season we've been having a solid year. We've hoped for a little bit more. Of course, I've got now Kimi as my teammate, young Kimi, who's doing a good job, but it's not easy coming into Formula One as a rookie these days, especially when you're thrown in at the deep end.
It's not all glamour. We've just walked past the bin, so just before we let you go, as we get toward the FIA offices here, George, starting from fourth. Now, I know this is Monaco without the walls and all that kind of thing, but it's all about the win, isn't it? Come on.
Yeah, we'll be going for it for sure. Of course, Gasly's about to crash into us. Gasly, watch out.
Come on, the first time of the day.
Yeah. So, no, it's a long race ahead of us. The conditions are much cooler today, which is good for us. See what we can do.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you. Good luck. All right. Let's keep rolling. Let's move away from George Russell now. Let's move away from Pierre Gasly. How good was that? Gasly just approached him on a scooter and had to jump out of the way. I think he said, I hope that's the last time I crash into you today. Brilliant. Right, okay. Let's go back to the athletics. Katie Smith.
You can send me.
Carol Nita in the first heat.
World record, but he's followed it up with a gold medal in the 400.
Thank you very much, guys, and great timing as well, because Max Verstappen, the 4 times in a row world champion, is walking right past us here at the Hungarian Grand Prix with that famous wide-brimmed cap on in his white Red Bull jersey. He's just gone through the doors in front of us. There's full of tyres all around us, and they just close, and he now just kind of rubs his chest and walks away toward the grid. Just to our right-hand side is Helmut Marko in a windbreaker. What do you call that? A gilet, that's the word for those things. Big Red Bull gilet. Helmut Marko, if you don't know, is one of the great voices of Red Bull over the years. He's in his 80s now. His official title is Motorsport Advisor. He's a bit of a kingmaker. And when Max Verstappen's future was up in the air over the course of the last few months, he does not mince his words. He said it was senseless to think that he might leave this team. And sure enough, Jenny Gow, Verstappen has committed his future.
He certainly has, and I think a man that's had a pivotal role in that is actually standing on the veranda, as they call it, of the Red Bull Energy Station. Jos Verstappen, Max's dad, former racer, now part of his management team, and he had a big spat, a big falling out with Christian Horner, the former team principal. Horner's no longer here. Jos Verstappen is now very quiet under all of this, but Max has pledged his future to Red Bull for at least a year, which I think will please everyone there and get us to stop talking about it, because it was just a distraction for Max. He didn't need that questioning constantly.
Right, we can just hear in the background now some of the sounds bursting out from the grid there. We might just have to kind of fade that down slightly, because it's slightly hard to hear ourselves, and we'll walk a little bit away from there if we can. That's a little bit better, I think. Let's hear from Max Verstappen then, shall we? Because he is not having the best time at the moment. He is 8th on the grid for the Hungarian Grand Prix. Here he is.
Max, a difficult weekend for the team out here, and of course this is a track that is also difficult to overtake at, but we know that hasn't stopped you in the past. How are you feeling today? What's the potential of the car?
Yeah, it's a bit difficult to know at the moment. It's been very difficult for us this whole weekend, but yeah, we're going to give it a good go. Hopefully we can race with a few cars ahead of us, and we don't need to look too much in the mirrors, but yeah, time will tell. I mean, weather the sun is coming out a little bit as well, so we'll be a bit warmer, but I'm going to try my best.
You have the Aston Martins ahead of you and Gabriel Bortoleto. Who is your fight with? Is it with them, or do you feel you have the pace to at least get beyond them and then batter with the top teams?
I think that will be tough, battling further ahead of that, but of course we need to try and fight with them.
Thank you very much, Max.
There you go. That is Max Verstappen. Let's speak to our correspondent, Andrew Benson. Andrew, I just mentioned that Max Verstappen's committed his future to Red Bull, and the person he told was you.
Indeed, yeah, it was a news conference on Thursday, so I can't claim exclusivity on it, but it was about time to ask him and get him to confirm that was the case, because we've been hearing for a few days that things were heading in that direction. I think it makes sense for him. There's a lot of uncertainty about next year in Formula One with rules changing for cars and engines, so why take the risk now? Why not just wait and see how the competitive field plays out next year, and then he can leave if he wants to.
I think probably everybody listening to this, whether or not they're a Formula One fan, will be aware of the situation with the now former team principal, Christian Horner, leading the team. There were certainly issues between him and Max Verstappen over the course of recent months. Laurent Mekies, we're going to speak to him live on the grid in the next half hour or so, is the new team principal. Do you think the fact that Mekies was the guy chosen has had something to do with this, or is it all Max's decision, unrelated?
It's certainly not unrelated to that whole situation. The environment at Red Bull's been quite almost toxic, very complicated for the last 18 months after the allegations that were levelled against Christian Horner by a female employee, which he's always denied, and which 2 internal investigations cleared him of. There's been a very tricky situation between Horner and Jos Verstappen, Max's dad. Jos made it very clear he didn't think Horner should be in charge of the team. That can't have helped Max in terms of he likes stability and harmony in his working environment, so that was definitely in the mix. Mekies is a very different character. Already in Formula One we're hearing other team principals, Zak Brown this morning for example of McLaren, talking about how different their relationships with Red Bull are likely to be now that Horner's not there. He was a very antagonistic character. Mekies is more of a character like Andrea Stella, the McLaren team principal, an engineer by training, a more sort of collegiate, harmonious type of character. So I think it's going to change the Red Bull character in general, and it's a place where Max Verstappen's going to feel a lot more stability now.
Let's nip back to the athletics, shall we? Katie Smith, come in.
where the fastest British women of all time...
Only the relays now to come.
Thank you very much, Steve. You may just be able to hear in the background the first signs of speed. The sounds of Formula One cars just starting out their first runs here, getting out there, getting ready. We've got the Grand Prix here in 35 minutes' time. In 5 minutes' time, we'll be live from the grid. You always see people here you don't expect. I said that we had Didi Hamann walking around earlier, the former Liverpool midfielder. Robbie Keane, Republic of Ireland record goal scorer, legend of the game, is just in front of us as well. He's here with McLaren today, so he's got his hat, and lots of people are asking for a photograph with him. They should be asking correspondent Andrew Benson, because he is a man right at the top of his game. Andrew, let's talk McLaren then. We're going to hear shortly from Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. For those that don't know, Piastri leads the World Championship, 16 points ahead of Norris. At the start of the season, a lot of people thought this would be Norris's year. It still might. It's 25 points for a win after all. But just before the summer break, as we are, does this feel particularly important today?
It does, because if Piastri wins this race with Norris second, for example, that's another 7 points. That's 23-point gap. That's nearly a clear win. Psychologically, that's quite a big step. Whereas if Norris wins, the gap's down to, well, single figures. So that's a big psychological step for him. It's been interesting the way the momentum's flowed between them. Norris came to the season as favourite. Piastri, after the first race of the season, went on a really strong run, established himself as like the main guy at McLaren, really. Norris was making a few little mistakes here and there, not happy with the car. Since then, the car's adapted more to his liking, and he's come back into form, but it still feels like Piastri's the guy who's the one to beat. It not just because he's in the lead, just because he just feels more solid, and pretty much everyone admits that. Even privately, people at McLaren will kind of admit that to you. I just think it's going to be a really fascinating season for the remaining, 12 races, 11 races to go. And I think Norris will want to go into the summer break having made a statement here.
And psychology is the word. You used it a couple of times there, and we've spoken over the course of the last few days a lot about that, but it bears repeating. The way Lando Norris looks at himself, so open. We spoke to Carlos Sainz, his former McLaren teammate, who said he thinks that basically people use his openness against him to criticise him. There's a lot wrapped up in that debate, but I suppose the key piece of information is when it comes to Oscar Piastri, there's no debate.
No, that's right. He seems so calm and level-headed and unflappable. And I don't think Norris's openness with the media or with people in general on social media is a weakness in terms of showing a psychological weakness. But that's one thing. The issue for him is that he's more prone to small mistakes in the car than Piastri is. So what that means is that Piastri has kind of, not completely, but mostly maximised his level. He has a higher average, whereas Norris's season has been more peaks and troughs as a consequence of those small mistakes. And that's what's giving Piastri the advantage so far this year.
Great stuff, Andrew. Lovely to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Andrew Benson, our F1 correspondent. He is going to zip away now. Benson is always on the move. He's got his notepad out. It's never far away. He's always speaking to important people. If you followed Andrew Benson around for a day at Formula One, you would learn the big secrets of this sport. He has got the ear of absolutely everybody. So a reminder for today, Lando Norris starts third on the grid. Oscar Piastri starts second. Let's hear from them both. The Australian World Championship leader first.
Oscar, last year it was a win from the front row for you, and today you line up P2. How are you feeling when you look ahead to the race?
Yeah, I mean, based on history, I feel pretty good. But obviously it's a bit of a different order today. You know, things are quite different to 12 months ago. So I'm excited. I think we've got good pace, and it's going to be an exciting race, probably.
Yesterday you were caught out by the changing conditions and the wind. Today it seems a little bit calmer. Does that give you confidence that you will be able to get yourself back up to that top spot and you are the more dominant car?
I hope so. I mean, I think we should have the pace today, but I don't think it will be by much. So, it's a track that's very, very difficult to overtake. A lot of corners means a lot of dirty air. So let's wait and see. We're hitting the brakes pretty hard here. But, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, it's going to be a strategic battle, I think. Unless I can get the lead at turn one, it's going to all be down to strategy. So It's going to be exciting. Might be a bit of a slow burner, but I think it will have some fire at some point.
Lando, a P3 start for you today, and you have a fast car underneath you. How are you feeling when you look ahead to the race?
Feeling good. Yeah, long race, many things can happen. Still a little bit of rain meant to come our way, so no, I feel good. I don't know what else I'm going to feel, so I feel good and ready to go.
You have your teammate ahead of you and then the Ferrari of Charles. Charles just telling us that he thinks you do still have the faster car. Do you think you have the pace to get ahead of your teammate and to challenge for the win?
I mean, that's a bigger ask, but my goal is to win the race today, so I hope so. I still think we have a better car. Charles did a good job yesterday, so we have to take our hats off to that, but no, we're hoping today swings back our way a little bit, especially if the wind remains a bit more calm. We have the advantage. When it picked up like yesterday, we clearly struggled a bit more, so we'll wait and see.
There you go, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. Didn't they sound different behind the eyes? What is the big difference going to be in the rest of this Formula One season? Well, the sound there are because they're back playing Hungarian folk music here in Budapest, but it's actually happening on the track. So Jenny Gow and I, we are walking and we're on our way to the grid.
We are. I'm so excited. This is the moment where you get to really put your elbows out. Have you sharpened your elbows?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And we're going to try and speak to the great and the good of F1. Follow us on, hang us on. We'll take them all.
There's supposed to be some big celebrities here. We will see. You never know. It is the most fun, the best organised chaos that you can possibly imagine. So we're walking now toward the big gates that separate us from the grid. We will be live with all of the best drivers in the world here at the Hungarian Grand Prix with half an hour to race time after the news on 5 Live with Nick Hatfield.
The voice of the UK.
5 Live Formula One.
Welcome back to Budapest. We are live at the Hungarian Grand Prix and we are on the grid. Above us, 4 or 5 helicopters circle, looking to get the best position, to get the best view of this sprawling circuit in its 40th anniversary year. We're standing right next to the Mercedes here of George Russell. He is starting 4th on the grid. The car is all on the floor. You can hear all of the work that has to go on it. In front of us, bright red tanks getting all the fuel on board. There'll be cooling going on to make sure it works. In his baby blue helmet, he's just jumped out of his seat and walked away for one last moment of calm, Jenny Gow, before the storm that is Formula One.
I know, and you can hear the music, the atmosphere. It's amazing. So many fans like to come to Budapest, and it's no surprise. They put on a great race, they put on a great show. The city's beautiful and amazing, and you can hear and feel the anticipation for this race.
The view here is absolutely astonishing. Just to our right-hand side on a raised platform is the podium, bright red. I can see the number 1 spot where all of these drivers are desperate to stand. One of them will be Lando Norris. His car is just to our left-hand side now on the black tarmac. There's big white lines surrounding it, which just tell him not the centimetre, the millimetre that he needs to stop on. We are surrounded by mechanics and media. There are celebrities knocking around as well. We're going to keep walking toward the front of the grid. We've got to say though, Sam Bird, McLaren Formula E driver, who's up in the commentary box, this is a big day for Lando.
This is a big day for Lando indeed. He's not going to want to go into the summer break with a larger point deficit than he's got already. I'm feeling good about Lando's chances today. I think that he's got the weaponry underneath him to do the job, but he desperately needs a good launch off 3rd on the grid.
So Lando Norris starting 3rd, Oscar Piastri, his teammate, his car is just to our right-hand side. Piastri, who is the World Championship leader, who has been absolutely sensational season. He is the guy who really, you think, has the mindset at the moment to make this happen. We've been joined live now on 5 Live by McLaren CEO Zak Brown. Zak, you're in a great position. You're flying in the constructors. We're standing between the cars of your 2 drivers. Must feel pretty good to be in Papaya right now.
It does. I'm excited. You know, the Hungaroring, they've put in some great investment to the circuit, so great to see hundreds of thousands of fans. The drivers like the circuit. I think we've been quick all weekend. Obviously didn't get the job done in Q3, but P2, P3 is not too bad.
You see these guys behind the scenes all the time. For the guys on the outside world like us, I'm not sure anybody really knew the dead-eyed mentality that Oscar Piastri, the World Championship leader, has. Have you always seen that? And have you seen something shift in his mind this season?
No, he's pretty much the same. He's got a killer instinct. Love the way he carries himself. He and Lando are absolutely awesome teammates. So, as I've said from day one, I think we got the best driver lineup in the business, and they continue to get the job done. So excited for today's race.
And you've always said that this feels like a bit of a coin toss weekend to weekend with these two cars. What does Lando need to do to try and find a way for it to land his way this season?
Well, I mean, like you said, there's nothing between the two, between the two in qualifying. So I think a start obviously makes a big difference in Formula One. So I think he'll be trying to see if he can't get in the lead on the first lap, and I'm pretty sure Oscar has the same plan. So we'll see.
Great to talk to you, Zach. Good luck today.
Thank you.
Top man, that's Zach Brown, CEO of McLaren, live with us on the grid on 5 Live. We're going to just sort of weave round the back now toward the Ferrari on pole position. Charles Leclerc's car. It has a big red rope in front of it. It is the most grand position in this fantastic sport. He's done brilliantly well to set this lap, Sam Bird. I'm not sure any of us saw it coming.
No one saw that coming. We all thought it was going to be a McLaren 1-2, didn't we? But then the wind changed direction for Q3 and completely changed the way that Q3 went. Obviously, the McLarens went half a second slower than what they were able to produce in Q2. And then Charles Leclerc with one of his best laps, I think, in qualifying. He's had well over 20 pole positions, but he was so surprised with that one, and what a lap it was.
All right, we are joined live by another team principal now. We're getting all of the great voices on the grid. Jenny Gow.
I'm joined by Jonathan Wheatley, Sauber team boss. I tell you what, boys done good today. Bortoletto starting P7.
Yes, I mean, Gabriel did an amazing job in qualifying all the way through. We had our heart in our mouths. He got through to Q3 by 1,000th of a second, and you know what? That shows how close it is. And the battle we're in today is 100th of a second here and there. So yeah, it's going to be tough.
It is going to be tough. Can you give us a little guide as to what we can expect on track with strategy? You used to be in charge of that kind of thing. You're now the big cheese when it comes to Sauber, but tell us, what can you share?
Well, I think some teams will know pretty early on have committed to a one-stop, and then you're looking at your pit windows around that. I think you have to be a little bit flexible on strategy and just see what gaps open up behind you. So 1-2 stop, the normal dilemma.
And this is a new pit building they've built here in a year. They've managed to get it done. It's quite impressive. Does that affect you at all?
I mean, firstly, I've been coming here since 1991, and what they've done at the circuit is nothing short of incredible. And yeah, it's given us so much better facility to work in terms of garage space and what have you. And obviously, it gets Formula One ready for an 11th team.
Right, we're going to let you go. It's very noisy down here. Thank you very much. Good luck, Jonathan.
Thank you very much.
Brilliant, great stuff. Right, Jenny, let's make our way down toward Red Bull if we can, and we have to go a little bit further than normal to find the Red Bull of Max Verstappen, of course, because he is the world champion. He has been for the last 4 times in a row, but he is really, really struggling. Just going to try and get a tiny little bit quieter as we move away, because it is amazing how you just cannot hear yourself think on the Formula One grid. So that was Charles Leclerc's car that was starting up. We are heading all the way down the grid to find Max Verstappen's Red Bull. I say all the way, it will be in 8th place. He's having such a tough year. I think he probably knew this was going to be the way it was going to go for him, Sam Bird. It wasn't a surprise necessarily, but I wonder if he has been surprised with just how big the struggles have been.
Struggles are big at Red Bull at the moment, aren't they? He really, really struggled for all-round grip. He's been complaining about this ever since FP1, and it's been the same for his teammate Yuki Tsunoda. We expected Max Verstappen to maximise the potential of the car, and maybe he did that, but even so, to be qualified down in 8th position is not where we're used to seeing him. I do expect him to make some inroads today and potentially finish inside the top 6, but it could be a long afternoon for him and for Red Bull.
A little bit of Shakira suddenly blasts over the speakers here. Turning to my right-hand side, you can see the main grandstand is absolutely rammed here. Carlos Sainz is just in front of us, blue baseball cap on backwards. We spoke to him a couple of days ago about his journey in Formula One, turning back then to the Red Bull of Max Verstappen, and it's quite a sight. We can see the huge gold, blue and black jacks that just keep it up off the ground for this moment. The tyres have got huge covers on them. You can see, I'm going to call them the gills on the side of the car as well. Up close and personal, Jenny Gow. These are amazing machines.
They are, and they are made up of so many components. We look at it and see an F1 car, but actually each screw, each piece of tape, everything goes together. Thousands and thousands of parts all have to be reliable each weekend, and this is the end of the first part of the championship. Summer break after this race, so these cars have gone through their paces. These drivers, these engineers and mechanics, they're all feeling the strain. I've spoken to a lot of people on the grid and they all just ask, where are you going on holiday? When do you break up? When's your sat down starting? So yeah, eyes are definitely on the summer break, but the national anthem's about to start.
Yeah, that is very, very shortly to be upon us in about 45 seconds, so it just gives me an opportunity to tell you about another couple of things. We've just seen one of the cooling boxes from Red Bull spring open there, and it was almost like a smoke machine at a major theatre production. The smoke just shooting out of it, flying through the sky. Just to our left-hand side, I can see James Fowles, the Williams team principal, is making his way to the back of the grid. Just to my left-hand side now actually is the car of Gabriele Bortoleto of Sauber. His car is ahead of Max Verstappen. It's Bortoletto's best ever qualifying performance, so we will certainly have much more to come on that. Away in the stand to our left-hand side, the red, white and green flags from the stands are bright and proud, and here's the national anthem of Hungary. There you go. That's the national anthem, and the scene in the stand is quite remarkable, let me tell you. Those flags, well, there must be 5,000 people all in a long line stretching down this first straight off the grid here at the Hungarian Grand Prix. We can see the bright red lights on right in front of us. When they go out, we'll be underway and racing in 15 minutes time. So we're still standing next to the Red Bull here of Max Verstappen. You've got to go even further back to find his teammate, of course. Yuki Tsunoda is 16th on the grid. It's felt impossible for any Red Bull driver to live up to what Max Verstappen can do, but today Verstappen just has not been able to get it done, and it's probably not his fault either. Let's speak to Laurent Mekies, the team principal at Red Bull. Laurent, your second race doing this, has it sunk in yet?
Sorry, say again.
Has it sunk in yet that you are here?
No, of course not. No, it's still all look very, very new, and it's still about learning the team, still about learning, to meet as many people as we can. So it's still very much trying to observe and discover all the trends of the team. So it's been a bit of a special one because we are obviously struggling this weekend. So ironically, you learn a lot more in this sort of situations compared to when the performance is there, but certainly it's good to see the team operating on the track.
Let's just move slightly away to the right-hand side here so that we're not right in the Sauber's engine here. Your driver, one of your drivers, of course, Max Verstappen, 4 times world champion, committed his future to Red Bull a couple of days ago. How involved were you with that process? Because normally it takes a long time, even with a driver who's as comfortable in this car as he's been, to get contracts sorted, and you never know if someone's going to say, yes, I want to be here for the long term, but Max has done that now.
I think Max has been doing that for a very long time, actually. He has been repeating days after days, race after race, that he was committed to the team, and it's just a good news that he made that even more clear than what it was already. Just hopefully so that we can all focus on doing what he actually is after, which means trying to get him a faster car.
And finally, I wonder if there's any similarities here to football. And what I mean by that is, normally, one of the top Premier League teams, they wouldn't want a new manager to have to come in the middle of the season. They'd want to do it at the end of the season. So is it difficult coming in as team principal, even at a team you know really well, mid-season? Is there a lot to catch up on?
I think what is true is that, you need to allow for a time to get to know the team. I think it will be very, very difficult to come with plan A or plan B or plan C without taking the time to know the people, and that's what we are doing right now. We will build together the plan to go to the next step, to build more competitiveness, to see how we can support, to see how we can mitigate our weaknesses and increase our strengths. But I think the first phase is to do that observation phase, and of course it's not ideal to do it in the middle of a season, but we don't choose all the timing.
Laurent, thank you so much and good luck. Brilliant. That's Laurent Mekies, the team principal of Red Bull. Whilst we're talking a little bit of football, sort of, let's get an update from Stockport. Nathan Olban.
Yeah, and Stockport is the ball.
And winning the test match, 176 for 3.
The commentary is available with the TMS team on 5 Sports Extra. Let's bring in commentator Harry Benjamin. Harry, we are walking further and further down the grid here, and we've reached the 44 car of Lewis Hamilton. We've been talking already about his struggles. This is the last place he wants to be, but just give us an idea of the full lineup here on the grid for the Hungarian Grand Prix.
Yeah, absolutely. He starts way behind his teammate, of course, does Lewis Hamilton, down in 12th with 11 cars ahead of him. And it is a bit of a run down to turn 1, just over 470 metres from pole position where his teammate Leclerc sits. The 2 McLarens lie waiting behind to pounce after Leclerc rather stole pole position from them yesterday. But also, cars to look out for in that top 10. The 2 Aston Martins, having been last this time a week ago in Belgium. Fernando Alonso is 5th with his teammate Lance Stroll just behind him. Can they bag some big points, some crucial points for the green team? But they'll be involved in that midfield scrap because, as you've mentioned, we've spoken to the team principal at Sauber, Jonathan Wheatley. A remarkable qualifying from Gabriel Bortoleto, who starts ahead of his good friend, but the man who sits 3rd in the championship, Max Verstappen, down in 8th with the 2 Racing Bulls cars of Liam Lawson and Isaac Hadjar. They're occupying the top 10. It's going to be tough for drivers to move themselves up the field. Lap 1 is going to be the most critical. Then it becomes all about pit stops and strategy.
Welcome to the start line at the Hungarian Grand Prix. I'm standing on the big white paint, and it will be time to go in 9 minutes time. The lights are right above us now, the brightest red that you can imagine. We're back in front of the car, the lead car of Charles Leclerc, after that absolutely incredible lap. I can see a Charles Leclerc flag as well right in front of us here. As we move around the front of the Ferrari, I can actually look into the eyes of the Monegasque Charles Leclerc, who raises his eyebrows and smiles at us. He's got the visor up at the minute. Imagine being that cool that you could have a little laugh and a joke before the race gets underway. Jenny Gow, I think he was probably looking at you, not me.
No, I don't think so. I think he was actually looking at the person behind us, which was GP, the race engineer of Max Verstappen. And he looked at me to say, he's looking at my car. Why is he looking at my car? Well, this is a perfect time for engineers to go around and do a bit of snooping. It's crazy.
Sam, what do you feel in this position when it's doesn't matter if it's a Formula E car or whatever it is, you're on the grid, you're sitting, you're waiting, there's 8 minutes to go. What's in your head and what's in your heart?
In a way, you're just thankful that you're in the race car and that all the talking now stops and it's laser beam focused down towards turn 1. It's quite refreshing to get in the car and there's less noise. It's just you, your machine, your engineer, and off you go for 70 laps around this fabulous circuit.
Amazing view again now, looking right down from the start line at the Hungarian Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc now to our right-hand side. Red and white helmet, of course, the colours of his beloved Monaco. To our left-hand side is Oscar Piastri, the World Championship leader. There's just some cooling air going into his car right now. He just lifts his visor there, puts his fingers through the holes in the helmet and pushes them down. Now Lando Norris to my right with the yellow and black zebra print helmet. He's just bobbing his head up and down. Looks like he's getting in the mood, getting in the zone, getting ready to go for what is such a big race for him. Now to the left-hand side is George Russell, who we heard from on 5 Live, the light blue helmet. A little nod as we walk past his car. Massive race for him today, just before the summer break. And then we're into the Aston Martins, who have had an absolutely spectacular day, Harry Benjamin.
They absolutely have. From being plumb last in Belgium, they line up in the top 6. Fernando Alonso making his 60th start for the team as well, and at a track where he took his maiden Formula 1 win will go from 5th spot. Lance Stroll will line up in 6th spot, and he's only finished 10th in the last 2 Hungarian Grand Prix. So Aston Martin really finding their flow around this circuit. Will they be able to back that up though come the Grand Prix distance? Speaking to a couple of other teams around them, they are a little bit worried about how the Aston Martin cars could play havoc with the top team strategy, so watch out for those 2 green machines.
Right, we're walking now through the pit lane toward the FIA garages, and there'll be the safety car in there of Bernd Mailander, who you heard from a little bit earlier on 5 Live. In front of us, the team principals have done all of they can. They're walking toward the pit wall. I can see just in front of us the McLaren garage. It's the first garage you come to because they are the reigning Constructors' Champions. The safety car has zipped away from the line to get in its practice lap. We're almost ready to go here. Don't forget, you'll be kept up to date with all of today's great live sport over the next hour and 40 minutes or so. Then we'll be back here bringing you all the reaction. You'll hear from the drivers. We'll be under the podium as the champagne goes off. Jenny Gow, I bet this never gets old.
Oh, never. All the mechanics have to get off the grid apart from the central core that stay around the car. So the rush to get off of the actual start line finish it's a bit crazy, but you can feel it hypes up as you go through the last half an hour. And this is the time when the drivers have a bit of calm, a bit of time to themselves. As Harry said, the talking ends and then the race is off. And Bernie Ecclestone always comes to this race, the former boss of F1. He's just walking in front of us, having a good chat with Zach Brown, the boss of McLaren, and I wonder what they're talking about.
All right, Jenny, she'll be live in the pit lane over the course of the next hour and 40 minutes. We're just seeing some of Lewis Hamilton's team walk past us as well. He is the guy who has to have everything pitch perfect and ready to go for every race. It could be his day. You just never know. This is Formula 1. We're ready to go racing at the Hungarian Grand Prix with your commentary team, McLaren Formula E drivers Sam Bird and Harry Benjamin.
Thank you very much, Steve Crossman. Jenny Gow on the grid for us, just moments away then from lights out for the Hungarian Grand Prix. We welcome you to the commentary box with a beautiful vista ahead of us. We are right opposite the pit lane. Max Verstappen, his garage there, lying in wait as the mechanics will wait for that first pit stop. Ferrari as well, just to our right. And then the grandstands around this circuit, absolutely packed out and ready for 70 laps of racing. But Sam Bird, the driver who starts second here, has led the opening lap in each of the last 2 Hungarian Grand Prix. So Charles Leclerc, who starts in pole, is going to feel the heat from Oscar Piastri?
I think so, but we know that Ferrari in a straight line is strong. So even if Oscar gets a slightly better getaway, Charles Leclerc has the opportunity to brake late on the inside and hold position going into turn 1. Predictably, the top 11 drivers here have opted to start on the medium compound tyre. But Harry, the first person to go on the hards is Lewis Hamilton in the Ferrari.
Meanwhile, full time at Stockport, 2-0. That's over in the football. Right here, we are just a couple of minutes away from the Formula 1 here on 5 Live. Lights out for the Hungarian Grand Prix. We'll talk you through some of the strategy options once we run you through the grid order. A couple of those people to look out for, though, or indeed a couple of actual characteristics to watch out for, Sam. So far up to this weekend, it has been hot and sticky. And whilst the temperatures have halted up a bit compared to where we were this morning. It is certainly cooler than what the teams have experienced so far.
Yeah, more cloud cover today than we experienced yesterday and especially Friday. That was blisteringly hot. These kind of conditions would bring potentially Mercedes into play. Russell starting P4. What can he do? Can he get in the mix? We've got the Aston Martins in 5th and 6th looking very strong yesterday. Is Max Verstappen going to make a charge? We're going to find out in 5 minutes' time.
Yeah, George Russell will go from 4th spot. Only second top 10 start in Hungary since his pole position back in 2022. We will have one runner going from the pit lane as well in the form of Yuki Tsunoda. He was knocked out in the first part of qualifying, his 5th Q1 exit, and they've changed his power unit components and he's gone beyond his allocation, so they will start that car from the pit lane. So we will only have 19 cars on the grid with Tsunoda going from the pit lane. It will be the red Ferrari that will have the best view in the house. 472 metres the run down to pole position, to that turn 1 braking zone. We're 20 kilometres northeast of the capital Budapest here at the Hungaroring, which has come alive this afternoon with the grandstands packed. Pole position stolen by Charles Leclerc's Ferrari from underneath the noses of the 2 McLaren drivers who lie ready to pounce. The clouds are lingering, the temperatures are rising, and the strategy is set to be king. We've seen surprises here before. Could we be in for another today? Strap in. This is 5 Live. It's coming up to 2 p.m. in the UK. It's time for the Hungarian Grand Prix. Taking his first pole position this season and Ferrari's first, Charles Leclerc alongside him on the front row will be the McLaren of Oscar Piastri. Then comes Lando Norris in 3rd. George Russell sits 4th in the Mercedes, with Fernando Alonso in the Aston Martin getting his top 5. Lance Stroll just behind his teammate in 6th. Gabriel Bortoleto with his best ever Formula 1 start in the Sauber from 7th, ahead of Max Verstappen. Liam Lawson and Isaac Hadjar, the Racing Bulls teammates, line up 9th and 10th. Just missing out on a top 10 start is the British rookie Oliver Behrman for Haas, ahead of Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari in 12th. Carlos Sainz in the Williams is 13th, ahead of Franco Colapinto's Alpine. Then comes Kimi Antonelli in the Mercedes 15th. 16th will be Pierre Gasly, followed by Esteban Ocon's Alpine. Then it's Nico Hülkenberg's Sauber, and Alex Albon in the Williams will be last on the grid. Yuki Tsunoda from the pit lane. As they make their way on their formation lap, we will keep you up to date with what's going on across sports here on 5 Live. Cricket and golf updates to come at you over the course of the next hour or so. But Sam Bird, the cars are on their formation laps now. What are the drivers doing at this stage ahead of lights out?
At this stage, they're trying to get that lacquer surface off the top of these brand new medium or hard or soft compound tyres, whatever they're running. They're also trying to get maximum temperature, or the correct temperatures, into the brakes, the right temperature into the core of the tyre. There's no point just getting good surface temperature. You've got to have good core temperature as well. But do you know what I noticed coming off the grid? It took an awfully long time for the back runners to get going off the grid down towards turn 1. I think it's going to take quite a long time for the pack to basically pack up and form the grid.
Well, as Charles Leclerc is already lining up on the start grid, let's head over to 5 Live Race Centre. BBC F1 correspondent Andrew Benson. Strategy so important here. What is the tyre situation?
Everyone top 11 is on mediums. The Aston Martins are on 1 lap old mediums. Everyone else is new, really. Aston Martin like to do that because they think it takes the edge off the tyre and gives them an advantage. Lewis Hamilton on hards in 12th will be going to trying to go long and move up the field through that. The key thing is whether Sam's pointing at something on a Red Bull. Oh, he's coming into the pits. Was that Verstappen?
Looks like Verstappen's come into the box.
No, that will be Tsunoda who started the pit lane.
Yeah. So Leclerc will be desperate to keep the lead, and if one of the McLarens gets ahead of Leclerc at the start, then that's probably race over.
Let's see what happens then. 70 laps ahead of us. Charles Leclerc is lining up in that pole position spot. Alongside that Scarlet Ferrari is the papaya of our championship leader Piastri. It's all eyes to the lights and foot to the floor. floor as we go racing in Hungary. And it's a good start from Charles Leclerc. It's Lando Norris who's trying to get the inside of his teammate Piastri, who moves across to defend. Look out for George Russell as well, who swings round the outside of turn 1 to get himself up to third. Norris also having to battle Fernando Alonso's Aston Martin. Charles Leclerc leads as they head downhill into the left-hander of turn 3 from Oscar Piastri, and then side by side it's George Russell up into third ahead of the Aston Martin of Fernando Alonso, with Lando Norris losing positions down to 4th.
That is not what Lando Norris needed at this stage in the race. He was looking to go forwards. He had a good start, got on the inside of Oscar Piastri, but when you go to the inside, you've got to brake early. And he got caught out big time by George Russell and then by Fernando Alonso.
Nightmare start for Max Verstappen, who's lost position. He's down to 9th. A rocket ship of a start for Gabriel Bortoleto, who started 7th. He's already up 1 position into 6th in the Sauber as they make their way now towards the penultimate corner, the left-hander of turn 13. It's Charles Leclerc who leads them. Oscar Piastri is 2nd. Then it's Russell, Alonso, Norris the top 5 with Bortoleto. Lance Stroll is in 7th ahead of Lawson, Verstappen and Ollie Behrman up into the points playing positions in 10th as we start lap 2 of 70 here at the Hungaroring.
Yeah, Isaac Hadjar trying to put a move on Ollie Behrman and get back into the top 10. Really late lunge going into turn 12. Ollie Behrman knew that he was coming and was able to hold the position.
Outside of the top 10, Hadjar is in 11th ahead of Sainz. Antonelli, Hamilton has actually lost positions. He's started this race in 12th and he's fallen down to 14th spot as Hamilton ahead of Ocon. Albon is 16th, then Hulkenberg, Colapinto, Gasly 19th, with Tsunoda from the pit lane now catching up to the back of the pack. Lap 2 of 70, DRS is now enabled. That's when the rear wing flap can open and give the car behind the other car, when they're within a second on the start-finish straight, almost 20 kilometres of an advantage as Max Verstappen makes a nice move through the tight and twisty chicane through turn 6 and 7. Max Verstappen making his way up the order and back up into 8th spot.
Yeah, Max Verstappen making the move on Liam Lawson there. Lando Norris applying a little bit of pressure on Fernando Alonso. McLaren would have spoken about this kind of start in their debriefs. They wouldn't have just covered going forwards and coming 1st and 2nd. In their debriefs, the engineers would have covered, right, what happens if we don't get a good start? What if we drop down to somewhere like P5? I think Lando Norris has got to this afternoon go for the undercut as he gets past Fernando Alonso down the inside with the aid of DRS and back up to 4th.
Sparks flying from the underside of Lando Norris's McLaren as he makes the move stick down the start-finish straight into the right-hander of turn 1. Norris up and ahead of Fernando Alonso's Aston Martin. Lap 3 of 70. Charles Leclerc now has a 1.1 second advantage over Oscar Piastri. Russell is 3rd. Norris, Alonso the top 5.
It was almost as if Fernando Alonso thought, I don't need to get involved with you, Lando Norris. You're far too quick for me. If I try and hold you back, it's going to ruin my race. I've got to look at the cars behind me, and you can go ahead and challenge the people in front. That's good news for Norris. His start was interesting. Norris got a slightly better...
Oh, what a move! Sorry, Andrew, from that's with the Red Bull getting past Lance Stroll once again into the chicane down the inside for Max Verstappen, not wasting around. He's now back up to 1 place ahead of where he started. Verstappen up to 7th and Stroll down to 8th. But it's a really important point you're making there, Andrew, because Fernando Alonso, he's not in that battle for the win. Aston Martin are embroiled in a really heavy midfield fight. He wants to secure as many points as he can.
Also, Aston Martin is just at a strategic disadvantage today because they've only got 1 new set of mediums and hards for the race. They have to run the softs at some point probably, and that's going to make it difficult for them to compete with the front runners who are faster than them anyway. Norris at the start, it was slightly better than Piastri, and it looked for a while like he wasn't going to try the move. Then he committed to the inside, and Piastri just pushed him further and further and further to the inside, and then they were both vulnerable to George Russell at that point, who stayed on the racing line. Norris was one who lost out, and that's how Alonso got past him as well.
How's this for a dynamic now as we're on lap 4 of 70 and Max Verstappen is all over the back of Gabriel Bortoleto. These two good mates in the paddock and beyond, and Bortoleto then is right behind Fernando Alonso, who just so happens to be his manager as well. I quite like this for a dynamic. It's 5th for Alonso, 6th for Bortoleto and 7th for Max Verstappen. They're approaching the chicane now, the quick right-left of 6 and 7, where Verstappen has already picked up a couple of cars. Brave to do that. He can't do it for Bortoleto.
Sure, Max. Let's get through these ASAP.
Yeah, Max is going hunting at the moment, isn't he? He's done 2 moves in a row, 2 successive laps into 6th, 7th. Thought better of it this lap with Gabby Bortoleto, but you sense that he's coming for Bortoleto and Alonso, don't you? I think that it's not going to be too long before we see him making his way through.
Lap 4 of 70 towards the end, and a racing control incident by Gabriel Bortoleto moving before the signal has been noted, if that is at the start line, and he may well have jumped the start. They might elevate that. A false start for Gabriel Bortoleto being noted. That's usually a slam dunk as he tries to close up towards the back of Fernando Alonso's Aston Martin as they continue to do battle on lap 5. Charles Leclerc extends his lead at the front. Let's check in with pit lane reporter Jenny Gow.
Yeah, thank you very much, Harry. I tell you what, the clouds are amassing above us, grey clouds. They're quite dark, and I think the weather watchers will have to do their work today. Is it going to rain? There was a threat of it. Overnight we had some rain, quite a lot of it, but it's definitely cooler than it has been all week.
Yeah, air temperature 21.8 degrees, track temperature just over 31 degrees as we're now getting another look at the start. And it's Piastri who moves straight over to the left-hand side and then almost snaking to cover his teammate, Norris, who really lost out going into turn 1.
Yeah, that's the problem with going to the inside. You do have to brake earlier because it makes the corner a tighter radius corner. George Russell and Fernando Alonso were able to carry a lot more speed and brake later, and then just take massive advantage over the Englishman. We're now on board with Fernando Alonso, and you can see what I mean here, Harry. Lando Norris jinks to the right and then has to get out of the throttle and brake much earlier than the Mercedes and the Aston Martin. Meanwhile, we're seeing that Lewis Hamilton on those hard compound tyres is down to 14th at the moment. He started 12th, down in 14th.
Yeah, those hard tyres won't have given him the best grip at the start, but could that help Hamilton go longer into this race and try and get an undercut on those ahead of him, or try and go do an overcut, I should say, on those ahead of him by staying out longer in this Grand Prix? But it was all fairly smooth to kick things off here in Hungary. But in the meantime, let's check in at the cricket. Ellie Oldroyd.
England fans have some belief. England 200 for 3. They need another 174 to win this test match, and so much depends on this partnership right now. Harry Brook 59, Joe Root 37, 94 runs they put on together. England 201 for 3.
Commentary with Ellie and the team over on Sports Extra here on 5 Live. It's lap 6 of the Hungarian Grand Prix.
So interestingly, both of the Saubers now, both of them are under investigation for moving before the signal. We saw Bortoleto come up on our screens, and now Hulkenberg as well, both for the same exact thing.
Mate, my hand is... I took all the gravel. Copy. The gravel, man.
That is Isaac Hadjar, the French rookie down at Racing Bulls. Now, we've seen this before in Formula 1 where gravel comes onto the track and then can get kicked up into the cockpit of the car. And when small bits of gravel are moving at high speed, it can so easily catch your glove, Sam, can't it? And leave quite a mark.
It's like being shot by a bullet, to be honest. When it hits your hands, it absolutely can really hurt and do quite a bit of damage. So no wonder he's complaining about it and saying he's in a bit of pain. But guess what? The adrenaline of being in a Formula 1 race will get him through.
Hulkenberg, speak of, has fallen right to the back of the pack, having come in for a pit stop in that Sauber. So he started right at the back and now continues to be at the pack with those false starts being noted still. Not yet been elevated to under investigation by race control. We'll keep you up to speed with that. Lap 7 of 70, Charles Leclerc leads Oscar Piastri. The gap between them is 2.7 seconds. Then it's George Russell in third. Lando Norris sits in fourth. That's the sound you're hearing right now, with the McLaren driver ahead of Fernando Alonso, who is still keeping Gabriel Bortoleto at bay in sixth. Max Verstappen in that fight too in seventh, and they're bringing in Lance Stroll, Liam Lawson and Ollie Behrman the remainder of the top 10. Outside it comes Hadjar. Then it's Carlos Sainz, who started on the soft tyre. That's going to degrade quicker than the medium and hard tyres that the majority of the other runners are on. So we're going to expect Sainz to have to come in for an early pit stop. Kimi Antonelli 13th, Hamilton, Ocon the top 15. Then it's Albon, Gasly, Colapinto, Tsunoda and Nico Hülkenberg.
The pace from the top 4 is fairly relentless at the moment. They are dropping Fernando Alonso in 5th place, as you'd expect, to be honest. But Russell able to go with the McLarens at the moment. Charles Leclerc's last lap at 22.0, 22.0 from Piastri, 22.2 from both Russell and Lando Norris.
We've already had one car in the pits. Nico Hülkenberg, Sauber, Jenny Gao.
We have. He started back in 19th place. He started on the soft tyres, came in on lap 6 and changed onto the medium tyres. I've just checked with the team. It was just a pit stop to get rid of those soft tyres. So they're obviously not lasting as long as they would like them to out there.
No, those soft tyres were always going to fall off quickly, and Nico Hülkenberg kind of nailing his mast to a 2-stop strategy there, back out on the mediums. We'll expect to see him come in again. He'll be hoping for some kind of safety car intervention.
Oscar, some competitors are talking about a one-stop. Do you think one stop may be possible?
I mean, the tyre's still okay for now. Man, it's difficult to know with this many laps to go.
Yeah, understood.
That's our championship leader, Oscar Piastri, who leads the championship coming into this round, the last ahead of the summer break by 16 points to Lando Norris. But Piastri sitting second. So could a one-stop strategy be on the cards? If you start on the medium tyre, we're on lap 9 at the moment. The predictions were if you can eke that out to maybe lap 25, lap 31, and then go onto the hard tyre, you might be able to get to the end on that. But you leave yourself at risk of all sorts of trouble.
Yeah, it's early to say right now, isn't it? We're only on lap 9 of 70. So I think by the time we get to, I don't know, lap 17 or 18, then we'll have a better idea. The incident involving car 27 Hülkenberg is a false start.
Well, that's now been elevated to under investigation. Meanwhile, his teammate, that has actually been reviewed and no further investigation. So contrasting fortunes at the moment for the two Sauber drivers. Looks like Gabriel Bortoleto is clear for the time being. Nico Hülkenberg is 20th and last anyway, as it currently stands, and it's just been come up on the screen now. He has a 5-second time penalty for a full start. Nico Hülkenberg, he'll serve that in his next pit stop.
I wonder if one of those drivers thinking of a one-stop is Fernando Alonso. He's backing up the rest of the field. There's basically a massive train from him to Yuki Tsunoda in 19th place. He'd be desperate. He wants points for Aston Martin because they're not great a position in the Constructors' Championship. So maybe he's already thinking in that way in that Aston Martin car.
And he's done this before as Fernando Alonso. He is a master at holding the pack up, especially at tracks where it is so difficult to overtake. Very much like Monaco, this Hungaroring. It is tight, it is twisty. The main overtaking opportunities come down that long main straight with the aid of the DRS into turn 1. And then you're kind of lying astern through the middle sector. Lap 10 of 70, Leclerc leads by 2.8 seconds to Piastri. Then comes George Russell, who is now under pressure with a chasing Lando Norris, who's just set the fastest lap and is closing as he navigates his way through the right-left chicane, then enters the sweepers that make up the middle sector. Left, right, left, then right again for Norris, right on the back of the Mercedes gearbox.
Yeah, Lando's turned the wick up now, hasn't he? He's going after George Russell in that Mercedes. I think he wants to have a lunge, well, not a lunge, but he wants to have a go down into turn 1, probably on the next lap. Can he get close enough through 13 and 14? He looks a little bit far back at the moment. If he wants to have a go into turn 1, I think he's probably a little bit far back.
What's going on with these cuts?
That's Charles Leclerc saying, what's going on with these cuts? I'm not quite sure what he's meaning by that.
I think what he means is engine cuts. So there'll be points where the engine might be cutting and he's not particularly happy with the performance, maybe in a certain mixture that he's in at the moment.
Lando Norris still behind George Russell, wasn't able to make a move down into turn 1. Behind Norris is Fernando Alonso. He's 9.5 seconds back from Norris, but as Andrew Benson was saying, he's really keeping the whole field behind him. We have a driver tracker that we're able to look at, and he's got everyone.
We need to get past Russell.
So that's Norris being told he has to overtake the Mercedes as soon as possible for the sake of his race. What Alonso's doing is making it very difficult for the front runners, because at the moment there's going to be no gap for anybody to fall into unless they can fall into a gap ahead of Alonso. But in terms of anything else, the people from Alonso back, this is why it works so well for Alonso to be holding everybody up, because they can't all start doing strategic games because there's nothing for them to do, because they're all stuck behind each other.
But already, though, the gap between Lando Norris and Fernando Alonso is 10 seconds. You want about 20 seconds for a pit stop. Average time, depending on how quick or fast the team are when they bring you into the pits. That halves if we get some kind of safety car intervention, which has a low probability here, only about 25% chance of a safety car as we start lap 12. Charles Leclerc, though, Sam, doing a good job at the moment out in front.
Absolutely, in 3 or 4 more laps, and Charles Leclerc could be in that window ahead of Fernando Alonso and be able to pit and change onto the hard compound tyre if he wanted to do so. But right now, he's controlling the field very, very well. That Ferrari looks quick at the moment. We expect the McLaren to be better on tyre deg and overall performance later on in a stint. But right now, Charles Leclerc looking very comfortable and at ease leading this race.
Lap 12 of 70, Leclerc, that lead is just over 2.5 seconds to Oscar Piastri. Then it's another 2.7 seconds to George Russell, who has got Lando Norris all in his mirrors. Lando Norris, who started third, lost positions on the first lap and is now stuck behind that Mercedes. It would be crucial for him to get through. We're just listening to the sounds of Nico Hülkenberg.
Okay, Nico, we have a 5-second time penalty. We're moving before the start signal. 5-second time penalty.
Really? I'm not aware of that. Can I pick from my side?
So that's caught Hülkenberg by surprise. We just watched a replay of it, Sam, and I mean, they do have sensors that can pick up the tiniest of movements, and it must have been a small movement for Hülkenberg.
It was tiny movement, but there was movement there, and it's a good thing because those sensors have picked that up. If he hadn't got a penalty, there would have, in the next driver's briefing, with that on board there'd have been drivers going, hang on a second, I thought that would be a slam dunk penalty. So it's a decent thing that the sensors are working.
Well, Hülkenberg will have to serve that 5-second time penalty in his next pit stop. He'll come in and the team won't be able to touch the car for 5 seconds, and then they can get to work with changing the tyres and making any adjustments that they wish. He's already actually done one pit stop early doors to get rid of his soft tyre and put on the medium, and thanks to Fernando Alonso, has caught right back up to the rest of the pack because they're all stuck behind Alonso. But while the drama continues to unfold here, we've got drama at the Gulf. Catherine Downs.
Yeah, one of those moments of major championship magic for England's Mimi Rhodes. A hole-in-one on the par 3 fifth. It took a deflection off her playing partner's ball and then disappeared into the hole. That moves her to 4 under par, 5 shots off the lead. England's Lottie Woad, not the best start for her. 2 bogeys on the opening 2 holes. She is back to 1 under par, 8 shots off the lead. Charlie Hull has parred the first. She started her final round 3 back. The leaders get underway in the next couple of minutes, and it's Miyamu Yamashita who leads the Women's Open at 9 under par, just 1 shot clear of the chasing pack.
Catherine, thank you. Continued coverage of the Women's Open is over on Sports Extra 3. Right now you're listening to 5 Live and the Formula 1 here in Hungary. We're at just about 20 kilometres northeast of the capital, Budapest, at the Hungaroring, and I've got Formula E driver Sam Bird alongside me. We're on lap 14 of 70. Leclerc leads by 3 seconds to championship leader coming into this race, Oscar Piastri.
Yeah, it looks like Lando Norris has hit a bit of a brick wall behind George Russell at the moment. He just can't get close enough. He's 1.3 seconds behind at the moment, and you can sometimes do this when you get stuck on a circuit like the Hungaroring, where you just simply can't get close enough to make a move. We're seeing right now the field is fairly static. Nobody's really offering anything or making any big moves. We saw a couple of moves at the start when the field was compressed, but now it looks like it's just settled down and nobody's really offering anything.
Branko Colapinto in the Alpine has had enough of being stuck in that train behind Fernando Alonso. He's come into the pits, I believe. Jenny Gao.
Yes, he has. He's come in on lap 14. He's switched over to those hard tyres and is back out again now. This is the pit window about to open for those that started on the medium. Softs are already open if you want to come in, but not many takers for that. There's only a couple of drivers out there on soft tyres. So the medium window for a 2-stop is around lap 16. You want to go to about 25 if you want to try and do a 1-stop.
Thanks, Jenny. Yeah, lap 15 of 70, and those who are behind Fernando Alonso, which is the majority of the field, because Alonso is in 5th, are really stuck behind. Alonso driving a superb race right now for Aston Martin and really scuppering the strategy options behind, but we have got some movement in the pit lane now. Couple of cars coming in. Jenny, what can you see?
Yeah, Oliver Behrman, I believe, and Carlos Sainz sort of race into the pit lane, and it's so tight getting out. Goodness me, that was tight, but Williams trumps Haas.
Yeah, the Williams and the Haas cars both coming in, getting out of that train. So Alex Albon has just taken a pit stop and come out along with Esteban Ocon. And they have now filtered towards the back of the pack, along with Franco Colapinto and Nico Hülkenberg, who've also elected to take early stops here to try, I suppose, Sam, and do something. We are approaching that pit window, but to try and just get them out of the dirty air, to maybe hope for some sort of safety car if a yellow flag comes out, because the smallest of mistakes here, and you can find yourself heading into the runoff area.
Yeah, this track is very, very challenging to overtake, and we've spoken about it all weekend. You can get stuck behind basically a gaggle of cars, and that's exactly what we're seeing with Lando Norris right now. Other people opting to pit to try and change their order, but Lando can't do that right now. What is happening, though, is the front two are getting away. Charles Leclerc and Oscar Piastri lapping in the 22.0s, and George Russell, Lando Norris lapping between 3 to 4 tenths of a second slower. They're being gapped by the lead two right now.
So what do you do, Andrew, with Piastri and Charles Leclerc? Piastri, I feel like the McLaren should have the better race pace. Overtaking's tricky, so does Piastri essentially just have to shadow Charles Leclerc and then get him in the pit stops?
Well, we don't know what's going on at the moment. It's quite an interesting little situation, because Leclerc's got 3 seconds on Piastri. He looks like he's quite comfortable in the Ferrari. Here's Norris's radio.
Lando, we still think the wide line in turn 2 is better. Yeah, my problem is not turn 2, it's the last 3 corners.
Yeah, so they're trying to encourage him to find a way to get past George Russell, who's holding him up behind the top 3, behind the top 2, sorry, and he's basically, it's the same old problem you always have at the Hungaroring. It's just really difficult to follow through those last 3 corners and onto the straight, which isn't that long anyway. Interestingly, behind the top 4, Fernando Alonso's upped his pace and is starting to build a lead over Gabriel Bortoleto. Can he hold Fernando? It's typical race for him. Hold them back for a while, then start to move clear a little bit. Now it's 2.8 seconds over Bortoleto as they get closer to the pit stop period, so he secures his position.
Well, he's actually just done a lap time that's quicker than the top 4 runners at the moment in the Grand Prix. 21.9 for Fernando Alonso compared to the 22.5 of Charles Leclerc, although he is 19 seconds behind Charles Leclerc, so let's not get too excited. But you're absolutely right, he's looked after those tyres. Maybe what he's trying to do now is just finish those tyres, get them done, get the gap, and then box.
Really intriguing race unfolding here that will become clearer with the more laps that go by. Few cars towards the rear of the field have decided to come into the pit lane to get rid of their tyres. Nico Hülkenberg early doors, he's now in 16th. Carlos Sainz along with his Williams teammate, they're running split strategies. Sainz is on the hard tyre now, Alex Albon on the slightly quicker medium tyre, then Esteban Ocon in the Haas also on the hard tyre along with Franco Colapinto's Alpine. So the last 5 drivers in the field have all elected to take their pit stops. Now, there is a gap between Fernando Alonso in 5th and Nico Hülkenberg ahead in 16th. That is 20.6 seconds, and that is of no use to any of the runners ahead of them at the moment. And actually, speaking of, well, Max Verstappen has decided, you know what, maybe it is the time to head into the pit lane and get out of the traffic, Jenny.
Yes, Max Verstappen comes in, he gets a new set of hard, slightly slow front left, but is back out now, as I said, on a set of hard tyres from a set of mediums.
Thanks, Jenny. This is going to drop Max Verstappen all the way down. Nico Hulkenberg actually goes through, and Verstappen will come out in 16th spot ahead of Carlos Sainz, and with a little bit of clear air. Tsunoda actually is only one car ahead of him.
And Lando, we're thinking plan A -5, plan A -5.
Yeah, confirm. My tyres are gone.
So that sounds like an earlier than planned pit stop for Lando Norris.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what they're going to be planning on doing is boxing now. No,
it's Piastri. Piastri's coming in, and he makes his way through the long right-hander that runs on the inside of the final corner.
Box to overtake Leclerc. Box to overtake Leclerc.
Piastri makes his plea for a pit stop, Jenny.
Yes, it's in and out very quickly onto the hard tyres. The pit crew go back in. What is this going to do to the lead of the race? That's the question.
So Norris has stayed out then, and he's moved up to third. Alonso goes through up into fourth. Piastri should feed out just ahead of Gabriel Bortoleto in fifth spot. So Sam, this is Oscar Piastri going for the undercut on Charles Leclerc.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very difficult to do that, though. Charles Leclerc had a 2.7, 2.8 gap to Oscar Piastri, and Piastri's got to fire up those hard compound tyres. He is on the scrubbed ones that we saw them do on Friday in FP1. Having said that, it's a tall ask to get that much time. If I was Charles Leclerc, I'd be boxing imminently.
So when we talk about a scrub set, they've already run one lap through them just to get rid of that shine, maybe to make them slightly grippier.
Max Verstappen on his new hards has done a purple middle and purple final sector. That's fastest of all in the race. So what can Piastri do?
And Charles Leclerc has been told to come into the pits and respond to Oscar Piastri, who has pitted before him, to try and get that undercut and see if he can get ahead of him with some clearer air, as in comes the Ferrari driver, Jenny.
Yes, he comes in, pulls up in his pit box, 22 men surround the car, they lift him up on the jacks. Oh, there's another car. The Mercedes of George Russell's coming in as well, but it was a clean stop for the Ferraris. Can he come out in the lead still? That's the big question.
So the Ferraris coming out on brand new hards. They might take slightly harder to fire up. George Russell also on a new set of hard compound tyres. There goes the Aston Martin, and Oscar Piastri, as Charles Leclerc locks up into turn one. Oscar Piastri on hot tyres, as opposed to Charles Leclerc on tyres that he's got to warm up. This could be a battle into turn 3 and 4.
Yeah, so Charles Leclerc has managed to keep position ahead of Oscar Piastri. Leclerc coming out in third, Piastri in fourth. However, the McLaren drivers' tyres will be much more up to temperature than the Ferraris.
Leclerc may struggle on the outlap with warm-up.
And Oscar Piastri being told exactly that, to try and G him on, but so tricky to make an overtake in that middle sector. Leclerc would be able to use that time to get those tyres up to temperature. Norris has stayed out. He leads the Grand Prix by 12 seconds to Fernando Alonso in the Aston Martin, who has also stayed out there, yet to pit, has Alonso in the Aston Martin, as we get a replay of Nico Hulkenberg making a move, and as he came out of the pits, Charles Leclerc locking up the front right tyre as it went round, and now that's left him a bit of a flat spot too. Coming into turn one, as soon as he came out of the pit lane, that's going to come back to bite him across this stint.
I think he'll be okay. It's a hard compound tyre, and it didn't look like too bad a lockup. It's not going to be great. There might be a small vibration there, but it won't be too bad, as we see Charles Leclerc now getting past Fernando Alonso and back into second place. Norris and Alonso are going long here. Leclerc and Piastri and Russell have boxed. So this is an intriguing fight now at the front.
Yeah, this is working out nicely for Charles Leclerc at the moment, although Oscar Piastri has just worked his way, has just set the fastest lap. Let's get an update in the cricket. Ellie Oldroyd.
224.3, so that target drops to 154 more runs to win, with Harry Brook on 67, Joe Root on 49. This partnership absolutely invaluable for England at the moment. 114 they put on together since Ollie Pope was out for 27. 220 for 3. Scoreboard pressure starting to kick in for the Indians.
Thanks, Ellie. Live coverage of the cricket continues over on Sports Extra. Meanwhile, at 21 of 70 here at the Hungarian Grand Prix, Lando Norris, yet to pit, has stayed out and leads this race. Fernando Alonso in second, also yet to pit, has just been overtaken by Charles Leclerc, who has pitted from the lead and has now worked his way up into second. Oscar Piastri now wants to make quick work of disposing of Alonso down the main straight with the aid of the drag reduction system, the rear wing flap that flies open when you're in the second of the car in front and slams shut under braking. Piastri through on Alonso and up into third.
You know, the problem that the the McLaren has is that it's so good when it's running on its own in clean air. When you take some of that downforce away from it, it struggles to get past other cars because it doesn't have the straight line speed ability. So you take away a little bit of the downforce and they've struggled all year in dirty air.
I don't really know why McLaren did that. It was a very bold attempt to undercut Leclerc. The gap was too big. I think you'd really want it within 2 seconds to have a chance. And you could see that Leclerc had quite a big gap, Sam, didn't he, when he came out of the pits. So, and they weren't really under any undercut threat from Russell in third place. So I'm struggling to understand that one.
Well, at the moment, on lap 22, Norris has taken over the lead of this Grand Prix. 11.6 seconds split him and Charles Leclerc, who has pitted and is now on the hard tyre. Oscar Piastri also has pitted and done a first stop. Now up into third. Alonso has not pitted and is in fourth. George Russell is fifth. Bortoletto is sixth, yet to pit, along with Stroll, Lawson, Behrman and Hadjar. That's the top 10, and they are your current point scorers. Lewis Hamilton, who started on the hard tyre from 12th position, lost places on the first lap, has worked his way up to 11th after pit stop, but still, it's a long way to go for the seven-time champion. Gasly's behind him. Verstappen, who has pitted, has worked his way up into 13th spot now, ahead of Hülkenberg. Sainz 15th, ahead of Albon. Ocon is 17th. Colapinto and Antonelli, who just had a bit of a slow stop in the Mercedes, has now come out in 19th, only ahead of Yuki Tsunoda, who's having yet another miserable race for Red Bull, last but on the softs.
So this is either plan A, look to extend, or plan D, just keep talking to us about the tyres.
So a few laps ago, Lando Norris saying his tyres were gone, and we were under the impression that they were going to call that stint early and come in. Now, well, he's either working through some sort of graining going on those tyres, or they've kind of been backed into a corner, Sam, where they now have to stay out. As long as they can.
As I was explaining before, with the fact that he was taking downforce away from the car, he might have been overheating the surface. Now that he's got his own clean air, he might be able to look after the tyres a little bit better himself and eke the life out a little bit. That might give him an opportunity come the end of the race to attack the front two. The other interesting thing, looking at the timing screen at the moment, is that Max Verstappen looks like he's working his way with a big undercut to getting himself up to about P5 at the moment. If I think he'd be ahead of Bortoletto if Bortoletto were to pit soon.
Max Verstappen is loving that chicane. The right-left of 6 and 7 has just made easy work of Nico Hülkenberg Sauber, who didn't help the cause by running off the track and cutting the corner anyway. But it was Verstappen who lined up the move to begin with. Down the inside, Verstappen up to 13th now, and looking at the back of the Alpine of Pierre Gasly, looking at the side of Pierre Gasly, but the Alpine driver in the blue and pink liveried car stays in front, but not for long, as they go side by side through the left-hander that plunges downhill. Turn 2, that gives Verstappen the inside line through the right-hand flick of 3. Lovely work from Max Verstappen, who makes Gasly's 12th place his.
Yeah, he might not like his Red Bull car right now, but he'll like watching that back. That was a great move.
Guys, it's really terrible, this idea. It is almost perfect.
Well, okay, it's not ideal, but I tell you what, it's working right now. He's making up positions. He's going to struggle. He'll struggle mid-phase of this race, I think, and he's definitely on a 2-stop. But I think he'll look back at this race and realise actually it was a good call, because he's made positions that he wouldn't have done just sat there in traffic.
No, it was kind of between a rock and a hard place was Max Verstappen, but there are still a bunch of cars to pit. George Russell is trying to make his way past Fernando Alonso, who continues to stay out there and almost into the back of Alonso is George Russell. He really stuck to that inside line coming down to turn 2, and I don't think he was expecting Alonso to either, and then just had to hit the brakes and get out of that one. The Mercedes and the Aston Martin nose to tail. Russell showing his frustrations at being stuck behind the Spaniard.
Yeah, I thought they actually came to touch a little bit there. There was a spark that flew off the back of the Aston Martin, made it look as if George Russell's nose was in his rear diffuser, but they live to fight another day. Alonso's driving a really decent race, as you would imagine.
You think of one stop will work? Difficult, Oscar.
So difficult is the response to Oscar Piastri asking if a one-stop would work, having already made his pit stop to go onto that hard tyre to try and make it go to the end. That would be a long stint for Oscar Piastri, who pitted for that hard tyre on lap 25 of this race.
I think they did touch. I think that the front right element of George Russell's wing did touch Fernando Alonso, as now George Russell outbrakes Fernando Alonso with the aid of DRS and gets through quite comfortably and up into 4th place.
Yeah, now Russell can try and close down that 6-second gap between himself and Oscar Piastri. It's lap 26 of 70. Norris leads, having yet to pit. Charles Leclerc, who pitted from the lead, is now up into 2nd ahead of Piastri. Russell 4th, Alonso yet to pit in 5th. Bortoletto is 6th, Stroll, Lawson, Behrman and Hadjar the top 10. That gaggle in the midfield, all still to make their first pit stops, running long into this Grand Prix. Hamilton 2 is in 11th. Verstappen now climbing his way up to 12th and right at the back of this pack, and behind a man he once challenged for the title. They find themselves in 11th and 12th right now, Hamilton and Verstappen. Gasly, Hülkenberg and Sainz the top 15. Albon, Ocon, Colapinto, Antonelli and Yuki Tsunoda 20th.
Bit of a sit back behind these guys.
It's Lewis Hamilton's radio. A bit of a request to try and get the Ferrari strategist to do something with his Ferrari.
Yeah, but he starts on the hards, Harry. That's the thing. He started on the hards, so it's kind of... That's what he's got to do. He's got to stay out there. Verstappen obviously started on the medium compound tyres and had the option of going to the hards early. That's the problem with starting on the hard compound tyres here. You have to play the long game. You can't go to the undercut.
No, rather being scuppered by those ahead, particularly Fernando Alonso, who kept the field so close together, but annoyingly stuck all behind him for so long. Alonso in 5th at the moment, and certainly looking to try and only stop once in this race, running a really good race at the moment. This is the sound of Max Verstappen, who is still eyeing up Lewis Hamilton's 11th place, half a second behind as they make their way down towards turn 2.
The rear of that Red Bull, I mean, the global grip of the Red Bull, to be fair, doesn't look that great. I know he's gone quite long now on this set of hard compound tyres, but even so, the amount of rear movement in the final corner, bad exit, was nowhere near Lewis Hamilton going into turn 1, and then it looks like the front dies as well. Doesn't look fun.
Yeah, I can feel what we discussed before the race. We need to discuss those things before doing those.
Charles Leclerc on the radio, I think, highlighting the miscommunication that continues to unfold, or the lack of communication that continues to unfold between pit wall and the cockpit of the Ferraris. But he's in 2nd at the moment, effectively the net lead. Lando Norris eking out these medium tyres, doing a good job now. He's out in front in clear air, having lost positions on lap 1. Norris, Leclerc, Piastri, Russell, Alonso, the top 5. Here is the race leader.
Lando, we're considering the one stop. It would be 40 laps on a hard tyre. Keen for it? Yeah, why not?
Why not? Bring it on. Lando Norris trying that one-stop strategy, although we've heard strategy unfold on the radio before and they've gone against the idea, so we'll have to stick with it for now, but it feels like that's what Norris wants to go for.
I mean, if Lando Norris pulls that off, it could be a race-winning strategy from, you know, a poor start, dropping down to 5th, getting up to 4th again, but it could be. Everybody else has been pushing quite hard on this set, and I can imagine most other people will have to do a 2-stop.
We are going to lose this race with this thing. We are losing so much time.
Charles Leclerc really not happy with how his strategy might well be unfolding. He's 5.5 seconds back now from Lando Norris, who hasn't stopped, trying to only stop once. Lap 29 of 70 here for the Hungarian Grand Prix. Let's check in with the cricket. Ellie Oldroyd.
England 232 for 3, 142 needed to win, and the longer that Harry Brook and Joe Root stay out there together, the better it gets for England. Root is 51 and Brook 75, and that's another 4 runs from Harry Brook as well. 79 for him, now 138 to win, and Mohammed Siraj just looks tormented by putting Brook down on 19.
Thanks, Ellie. Continue coverage.
Catches us, we're coming in. He's 5.6 behind. At this pace, Leclerc catches us in 3 laps.
Let's continue coverage on the cricket over on Sports Extra. Lando Norris then being given some strategy update as it starts to get a little bit hairy for Max Verstappen, looking down the inside at turn 2, all over the back of Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari, who has yet to pit. The battle for second, third, and indeed the race lead is starting to heat up nicely as Verstappen and Hamilton come together, but do they? Hamilton had to run out wide, coming through the quick left-hander of turn 4, because he had the front wing of Max Verstappen's Red Bull right on his inside. Hamilton ran wide. We had a helicopter shot of it. We didn't quite see if there was contact, but we'll get a replay of it, and we are on cue about to see what happened. Sam?
Yeah, definitely contact between the front right of Max Verstappen and the rear left of Lewis. It's just put Lewis off going through the high-speed turn 4. I think Lewis will be very, very disgruntled with that move.
Well, it's heating up in Hungary. Lap 30 of 70. It's also the opening weekend of the Scottish Premiership. Let's head to the Falkirk Stadium. Kenny Crawford.
Yeah, 43 minutes gone and it's Falkirk 0, Dundee United 1. A goal in the break by Dundee United. Great work down the left-hand side by Craig Sibbald. Low cross, only partially cleared. And there was Max Waters on loan from Barnsley, the big striker, to smash it into the top right-hand corner. Falkirk 0, Dundee United 1.
And you can get reaction on the Scottish football podcast this evening on BBC Sounds. We'll also have Celtic against St Mirren from Celtic Park right here on 5 Live from 4:30. Right now, here it's lap 30 of 70, about to become lap 31. It's Lando Norris who leads this Grand Prix by 3.5 seconds to Charles Leclerc. Lando Norris hasn't pitted. Charles Leclerc has, having led the majority of the opening stages of this Grand Prix. Piastri was a net second, but is now third. George Russell is fourth. They have pitted. Fernando Alonso is fifth, has not pitted, along with Bortoletto, Stroll, Lawson and Behrman. They are the top 9. Max Verstappen has pitted and has now worked his way up into 10th spot.
I do think that this could work out very nicely for Lando Norris right now. I mean, if he's able to do the one stop, he's looking very, very strong for the end of the race.
So Charles Leclerc very much questioning his strategy. Feels like he might well be on the cusp of losing this race, having pitted earlier, along with Oscar Piastri, who initially kicked off the chain of pit stops. Piastri pitted, Leclerc reacted, Norris stayed out. And is that going to be crucial for Lando Norris, who could, after having a pretty poor opening lap here in Hungary and losing positions from where he started in third, now finds himself leading this Grand Prix and could well be on course to turn his strategy around and put himself back in the hunt for the race win. Lando Norris at the end of lap 31 leads this Grand Prix.
And Lando Norris in the box. He needs a very, very decent pit stop now. Jenny, what can you see?
Well, he's into the pits, Lando Norris. Nice and quick stop for the McLaren mechanics. Leclerc goes through, retakes the lead of this Grand Prix. Piastri up into second, Russell in third. Lando Norris now emerges from the pit lane and into fourth spot, crucially ahead of Fernando Alonso as he makes his way out of turn 1 and heads downhill towards 2.
So now Lando Norris has got to look after this set of hard tyres. We have race control, turn 4 incident involving Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton noted. So that's what we saw earlier on, a couple of laps earlier. But Lando Norris now on these hard compound tyres. He's got to get these to the end of the Grand Prix. So look after them, Lando. They can be your friends. These tyres could win you the Grand Prix.
Yeah, they might well if they are going to only try and eke that out to the end, to lap 70 of 70. We're on lap 32. Meanwhile, the cars ahead of him, Leclerc, who was on 12 lap old hards, Piastri, who was on 14 lap old hards, Russell, who was on 12 lap old hards. We all expect them to have to come in again, unless they might well be able to try something and hold on to them, as Piastri has a bit of a wiggle on the rear coming out of the final corner.
They all might be forced to try and do a one-stop. They might be. Overtaking around here is super, super tricky, and you can hold people back even when you're skating around yourself.
20.5 seconds on average pit loss under a green flag, and race running as normal here in Hungary. That is the gap you want if you are coming into the pit. Charles Leclerc, now he's back out in front. 1.4 seconds the gap to Oscar Piastri. Then there's a further 8.4 seconds back to George Russell. So the other option is to try and absolutely push as hard as you can and take your tyres to the very edge of their life, putting in quick lap time after quick lap time, and try and get yourself a gap to come out in front of Lando Norris. But it's easier said than done.
So the top four have pitted: Leclerc, Piastri, Russell, Norris. Norris obviously going, we definitely think that he's trying to do the one-stop. Other people trying to do the one-stop are Fernando Alonso, Bortoleto, Stroll and Lawson. I think Verstappen went too early to do that. I think he's probably committed to a two-stop. Other people that haven't pitted are Isaac Hadjar in 10th and Lewis Hamilton in 11th.
Lap 34 of 70 here at the Hungarian Grand Prix over in the Scottish Premiership. Half-time at Falkirk Stadium. Falkirk 0, Dundee United 1 as it stands. Back under a relatively cloudy sky here at the Hungaroring. Temperatures certainly lower than they have been throughout the rest of the weekend. Air temperature just above 22 degrees. Track temperature just over 31 degrees. And with Charles Leclerc out in lead, having started on pole position, this is really turning into a heavy strategy orientated race with Piastri in second. Both of those drivers have pitted on to the hard tyre. In an ideal world, they'll have enough of a gap to make another pit stop. However, Lando Norris is making their lives rather difficult, because Lando Norris didn't come in for a pit stop unlike his teammate in Leclerc. He stayed out much longer on his opening stint and has only just come into the pits. He's re-emerged in 4th spot and could go all the way to the end if he can manage those tyres. Norris might not have to pit again, and that could win him the race.
Yeah, I enjoy these strategic battles, these kind of races. Yes, it's difficult to overtake here, but the pit walls are working overtime. You know, the top brains in motorsport are there earning their money right now, and right now it looks like Lando Norris is on a belter of a strategy. What can he do there? Can he eke out that tyre life? He's just gone green, green, green and done the fastest lap of the race with a 1:20.752. He does need to go quickly, but he does not want to burn through that set of hard compound tyres.
Lando Norris, talk about not wanting to burn through them.
Well, yeah, but
says the fastest lap.
Yeah, but remember, the fuel is burning down.
Yeah.
You know, the car's probably 35-40 kilos lighter now than what it was at the beginning of the Grand Prix, so that will help lap time quite considerably. With a new set of tyres, you're obviously going to go quicker. He also can't... Piastri radio?
How's the tyre, Oscar? Do you think you could get to the end on another hard from here?
If I pit again, yes.
Crucially, if I pit again, yes, from Piastri. When asked could he get through with another hard tyre to the end.
In other words, there's no way that he can finish the race on this set of tyres. But going back to Lando, he currently sits 18.5 seconds back from Leclerc. So he needs to better Leclerc's pace right now. In this phase, he needs to get that probably down to 8 or 9 or 10 seconds, so that when Leclerc emerges, he's got a 10-second buffer to Leclerc in the lead. Leclerc will then have to eat into that lead, burn through some tyres, and then it's a case of hang on for the end of at the end of the race.
And I think what Leclerc was complaining about earlier was, I didn't want to stop. I think he would have rather stayed out on those mediums and tried to do a one-stop himself, or certainly not put himself in the same position that he's in now.
Lando Norris sets another fastest lap. It's Leclerc who leads by just under 2 seconds to Piastri. Russell is third, Norris fourth, Alonso the top 5. Then it's Bortoletto in sixth ahead of Stroll. Lawson, Verstappen is ninth ahead of Hamilton. Now those two are now under investigation for that turn 4 incident where Max Verstappen was right on the inside. It's not a corner where you go 2 by 2, and Hamilton then had to take to the runoff area. Verstappen got the position. Hamilton now behind him in 10th, Hülkenberg 11th, Sainz, Albon, Ocon, Antonelli the top 15, Tsunoda is 16th, Colapinto's just come in for another pit stop and feeding back out. He'll come out in around about last place, and he does indeed do that because Behrman goes up to 17th, Hadjar 18th, Gasly now 19th. It's a bit of a torrid afternoon for the two Alpine drivers who now occupy the last 2 places in this race.
I don't think it's going to be too long before we see maybe Oscar Piastri in the pits. The car balance doesn't look great through turn 6, 7. He's losing a little bit of time compared to George Russell behind, who looks like he's happier with his car balance on the used tyre currently.
The grandstands fully packed here at the Hungaroring. The last round before the summer break ensues. And we have about a month off before we are back in the second half of the season. We'll kick things off in Zandvoort as into the pits for the first time comes Lance Stroll's Aston Martin. A slow entry into his pits, and he exchanges his mediums for hard tyres. Stroll, who was occupying the points paying positions, now feeds out, and he will feed out into traffic, but we expect this to be Lance Stroll's one and only stop, and he'll come side by side with the Williams as they almost make contact, but Stroll just gets ahead of that Williams of Alex Albon.
These are still really good lap times, George. Just keep banging them in.
Let me drive.
That was George Russell being given some positive reinforcement, but didn't want to hear it. Just happy to keep driving. He's 8 seconds behind Oscar Piastri at the moment, and has got Lando Norris 6.8 seconds behind him and closing.
Yeah, doing a good job at the moment, isn't he, George Russell? These cooler conditions helping his car. We're now looking at a replay of Lando Norris. Is he going to kick up a bit of gravel? Absolutely. That's where everybody seems to be doing that. Exit at turn 12. Little bit of mid-corner understeer, and then, clipping the gravel. That area is littered right now.
Lando, just keep the focus. You don't want those mistakes.
And that's perfectly timed, just after the little exit into the gravel runoff area. We've seen many cars, though, do that across the weekend. This incident involving Verstappen and Hamilton, Stan, how do you think that's going to turn out? Do you think Verstappen's going to be in for a bit of pain here?
I think Verstappen will say that Lewis left the door wide open, and Lewis will say, well, he forced me to leave the door open because it's not really an overtaking spot, and he was too far back. So I think both will argue their point.
Yuki Tsunoda's just come into the pits, by the way. He was out there on the soft tyre and feeds back out into the pit lane.
They can't really argue their point, unfortunately, for them, because they're in their cars, and it looks like the stewards are going to do it while the race is going on. So let's see what happens. I mean, the overtaking guidelines say that the guy, they don't apply because it's all about incidents, but it's saying that to be given space if you're overtaking on the inside. What am I doing talking about? Yeah, so overtaking on the inside, the guy trying to overtake has to have his front axle at least alongside the mirror of the other car prior to and at the apex, and be driven in a fully controlled manner from entry to apex and not have dived in. Now, I'm not sure that the stewards will think that Verstappen complied with those rules.
It's under investigation.
What do you think, Sam?
I think it's more Max's fault than Lewis's on this occasion, and the problem is that it's massively affected Lewis Hamilton's race. He still hasn't pitted, and he's now 9 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton. He actually got overtaken by Verstappen and Liam Lawson in that same incident because he went so far off track. we're now seeing the Aston Martin mechanics preparing a set of tyres for Fernando Alonso, because I mean he's gone forever on that set of mediums. He's lapping pretty much 3 seconds a lap slower than Lando Norris. If he doesn't pit soon, the one stop won't work for him.
Mr. Lando's done 6 laps of hard. Would you prioritise undercutting Leclerc or tyre delta to Lando?
If you still think beating Lando is realistic, then doing that.
Oh, sounding a little bit resigned from Oscar Piastri.
Well, the championship is between Lando and Oscar, so his focus is beating Lando Norris this afternoon. Of course he wants to win, but if it's looking difficult, of those two, would you prefer to win the race or would you prefer to beat Lando Norris? The answer is beat Lando Norris.
Well, this is going to unfold over the course of the next 20 laps, because we're well past the halfway point at this stage, as Fernando Alonso finally calls time after a mammoth stint on the medium tyre, going all the way up to lap 39. 2.9 second stop for the Aston Martin team. That is Alonso now to the end, all being well, and he feeds out ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Alonso into 8th with nice fresh hard tyres, and a 7-second gap to close down to Max Verstappen in 7th.
For his box to overtake this lap, box to overtake Leclerc.
Here we go then, it looks like there's a bit of movement happening in the pit lane, and well, it's McLaren and also Ferrari.
Yeah, McLaren have come out, but Ferrari are the ones to take Leclerc. They're up and he's down again on a nice set of shiny new. I think that's the hard tyre, but McLaren definitely went out and didn't pit.
Yeah, did they respond? They saw Leclerc was coming in and decided, no, we're gonna stay out. Leclerc comes in for new hards on lap 40.
Or maybe they dummied Ferrari.
Yeah, potentially.
Surely not, Andrew. There's none of that in Formula One, is there?
I'm concerned about Charles Leclerc's entry into the pits then. He locked all 4 wheels and it looked very, very quick over the pit entry line, and that's something that obviously can get you a penalty. Hopefully he hasn't oversped coming into the pits.
Bortoletto's coming in as well, along with Lawson for his first pit stop, the one-stoppers.
Okay, you get some clear air. There's 6 seconds clear air to Gasly. Let's use the pace, and this gives you what you wanted with Lando.
So McLaren then giving Oscar what he wants. Leclerc emerged in 4th, by the way. Piastri is leading by 8.9 seconds to George Russell. Then it's Norris. Leclerc out in 4th. Max Verstappen is 5th, and then comes Fernando Alonso, Lewis Hamilton. Gabriel Bortoletto is in 8th spot with, I think, Nico Hülkenberg, who was playing another good team game of keeping Lance Stroll at bay, with just enough time to allow Bortoletto a bit of breathing room from the Canadian. Hülkenberg couldn't hold that Aston Martin car back for too long. Stroll into turn 1 is up to 9th, and Hülkenberg is into 10th, and with a 5-second time penalty starting from the back, Hülkenberg not really in the same race as his teammate.
Yeah, George Russell here in 2nd now could spoil Lando Norris's race by staying out too much longer. Lando Norris now within 1.5 seconds of the Mercedes driver, but if he doesn't pit soon, he'll get bottled up behind him, and Charles Leclerc has just pitted for a brand new set of hard compound tyres, so Lando Norris will be hoping and willing that George Russell pits soon.
Message from the stewards room: that incident involving Verstappen and Hamilton will now be investigated after the race, so the teams will have the opportunities to make their case to the stewards room. Here is Verstappen.
Okay, Max, so Bortoletto and Lawson have now pitted. We are considering leaving you out here.
Okay, well, it's not going to be easy.
No, I know, we're monitoring it. It might be our best opportunity, but like I say, we are monitoring it.
So that's the situation at Red Bull. From Gianpiero Lambiase, Max Verstappen's engineer. Verstappen, who sits in 5th place. He's almost 30 seconds adrift of Charles Leclerc's Ferrari. Fernando Alonso is 9.7 seconds back. Hamilton, who is still out there, he's worked his way up to 7th. Hamilton, who started on the hard tyre, still not pitted. Hamilton going as long as he can to try and make up for what he described as an absolutely useless qualifying for the 7-time champion. Bortoletto, after his one stop with a best career qualifying of 7th. It's currently in 8th and all over the back of Hamilton. Stroll 9th and Carlos Sainz now up inside the top 10. Let's pop over to the oval. Ellie Aldroyd.
250 up for England, 251 for 3. So they need another 123 to win this test match. Harry Brook 84, Joe Root 60, 145 runs for the partnership. The crowd are believing, the players are believing. There will be a twist though, because it's test cricket. 252 for 3.
That's continued coverage over on Sports Extra and reaction this evening on Test Match Special podcast on BBC Sounds later on today as Lewis Hamilton finally calls it quits, Jenny, and is into the pits.
Yeah, 43 laps on those hard tyres. He finally switches over to the mediums for the rest of this race. Where will he come out?
Yeah, he should. Ocon goes through, Hadjar goes through. George Russell's going to come into the pits as well, having just been told to think about extending, but no. Russell in the Mercedes is now feeding in as his former teammate feeds out and back into this Grand Prix. Hamilton now down in 16th, but on the medium tyre to the end. As George Russell comes into the pits. Actually, let's head back down. Jenny Gow, what can you see?
Yeah, I see a relatively clean pit stop. It wasn't the fastest I've seen though. It's released out on those white banded hard tyres. It was 2.9 seconds, so about 0.9 of a second too long in their books.
Yeah, and Russell should feed out though, safely in 4th spot with a rather large gap to Max Verstappen, who might well have his mirrors full of the one-stoppers behind him. Update from the stewards, it's penalty served for Nico Hulkenberg for his false start, so he's done that and got rid of that. Hulkenberg now down to 19th spot. Lap 44 of 70 into the closing stages of this Grand Prix. Piastri leads by 9 seconds, but looking to have another pit stop. Lando Norris, meanwhile, can go to the end in 2nd. Leclerc is 3rd ahead of Russell. Verstappen 5th. Alonso is a one-stopper in 6th. He'll go to the end now, along with Bortoleto, Stroll, Lawson, and potentially Carlos Sainz as well. He's worked his way up into the top 10. Antonelli is 11th ahead of Ocon. Hadjar, as actually these two are fighting very nicely down the start-finish straight. Hadjar having to concede the position to Esteban Ocon and getting then back in front of the Frenchman. The two French drivers battling it out. Lovely racing between these two. It's not the points. It's over 12th and 13th, but they're still fighting hard. And at the moment, it looks like the Haas driver has come out worse. Ocon now behind Hadjar, who is in 12th. Ocon 13th, Behrman 14th, Gasly is 15th, then Hamilton, Albon, Tsunoda, Hulkenberg and Colapinto 20th and last.
Yeah, Lando Norris needed George Russell to pit when he did. I was fearing the worst for his strategy. If George Russell had hung it out any longer, I think Norris would have lost too much time behind George Russell and a Mercedes car that was starting to hemorrhage a little bit of lap time on those worn hard tyres. So right now, Lando Norris is still looking fairly decent at the moment for this Grand Prix win, but he's going to have 3 very fast cars coming at him in the last 15 laps.
Leclerc is going to be 4 or 5 seconds ahead of our pit window. We suggest to box this lap, to push a box this lap.
I don't really care about Leclerc. I just want the best chance to try and beat Lando. So that's an important thing at the moment.
You heard it there from Oscar Piastri as the beautiful move from the Mercedes of Kimi Antonelli to get himself up into the points. It's a late dart down to the inside for Antonelli and gets ahead and up into 10th spot ahead of Carlos Sainz as Piastri does come into the pits. 1.9 seconds from the Australian, whose now main focus is just about trying to minimise the damage to Lando Norris. He doesn't care about Charles Leclerc. Piastri feeds out in 3rd, 11.3 seconds behind Leclerc's Ferrari, who is 7 seconds behind Lando Norris.
I think this is set to be a thrilling final 10 laps. I mean, can Lando Norris hold on? And what are the other 3 going to do about it? It's going to be really, really exciting.
Norris leads this race. Leclerc 2nd in the Ferrari. Piastri 3rd. Russell is 4th. Max Verstappen clinging on to 5th on 28 lap old tyres. Alonso is closing in behind him on 6 lap old tyres, although he's actually not. I thought he would have closed in a little bit quicker than he has done. Bortoleto 7th. Stroll, Lawson, Antonelli 10th. Then it's Sainz now down in 11th, Ed Hadjar, Ocon, Behrman, Gasly the top 15, Hamilton down in 16th, having gone so long in his first stint to try and catapult himself up the order. It's not worked out for the British driver in the Ferrari. Albon is 17th, Tsunoda 18th, with Hulkenberg and Colapinto.
Let's do everything we can for blue flags, please. Let's be a bit more proactive with it.
That's Lando Norris making sure his team and indeed the marshals are hot on giving blue flags. They give those blue flags to the lapped runners when the quicker car is approaching. They are not in the same race, so a blue flag being shown to you means you have to get out of the way at the earliest opportunity. You don't do so after a couple of red flags have flown at you, and you will have a penalty coming your way.
The balance of Lando Norris's car looks really nice right now, whereas when he was behind traffic and in the dirty air, the balance looked horrible. So right now things looking good in the McLaren camp.
Charles Leclerc dips a wheel onto the grass and the dust, pushing hard on the exit of the chicane. Through the sweepers of 8, the left-hander followed by the right-hander of turn 9, and then the left again of 10, out through another right-hander of 11, pitched slightly downhill towards the 90-degree right-hander of turn 12. That's where the strip of gravel lies that we saw Lando Norris dip a wheel into a few laps ago. Then it arcs left, then right to seal off a lap around the Hungaroring. We're on lap 48 of 70. Norris leading 7.3 seconds the gap. Going to the end now, having only pitted once. Charles Leclerc, who was pitted twice, who started this race on pole position, is down to second. Oscar Piastri, who looked like he could well be in contention for the win here, now having to try and minimise the damage, being forced to do 2 stops out there. Piastri third, Russell, Verstappen the top 5. I have to say, Verstappen, I think, is doing a good job out there at the moment. He's on much older tyres than Fernando Alonso. Last lap around, Verstappen did a 1:21.6. Alonso did a 1:21.5 as well. So actually, keeping Verstappen out there, as his engineer was asking for him, and Verstappen almost laughing and dismissing it, actually, well, yeah, he's holding firm at the moment.
Well, he was 8 tenths slower on the last lap, the one that they've just completed, so maybe Alonso had a little bit of traffic or something, but he is doing a good job. It's going to be a real struggle, though, for him to do another 22 laps on that set of hard compound tyres. He did the undercut, didn't he, Harry? He went early to the set of hard tyres, and it's going to take a lot. It's going to be a hard graft to the end for the Red Bull driver.
And Norris comes around the final lap to embark on, the final corner I should say, to embark on lap 49. Let's check back in with the Gulf, Catherine Downs.
England's Charlie Hull is tucked in a share of third place at the moment at 6 under par, but she's just standing over a birdie putt now on the par 3 fifth. The putt from about 4 feet away from the hole, and this to move to 7 under par and up into third place on her own, and 2 shots off the lead. In it goes for Charlie Hull. She's made her first move off the day after 4 straight pars. Lottie Woad started the day with 2 bogeys on the first 2 holes, but she's just put back-to-back birdies together on the 8th and 9th to turn in 36. She's at 3 under, 6 shots off the lead. And Mimi Rhodes as well after that hole-in-one on the 5th. She's just bogeyed the 8th, so she is back to 3 under par, 6 shots off the leader. Miu Yamashita, who is playing par golf at the moment, she's still 1 clear at the top at 9 under par.
Women's Open over on Sports Extra 3. Let's check in at Falkirk. There's been a goal. Kenny Crawford.
Yeah, the newcomers back to the Premiership are back level. It's Falkirk 1, Dundee United 1, and a brilliant finish by Dylan Tate, taking the side foot in the top left corner. Lovely layoff by Brad Spencer after good work down the right by Keelan Adams. Falkirk 1, Dundee United 1.
And update from the Athletics Championships, Katie Smith.
Where Josh Kerr is the new British 5,000 metres champion. He already had his place at the World Championships confirmed, so he didn't race in his favoured 1,500 metres today. Instead went for the longer distance, his first in 2 years, and with 900 metres to go, eased away from the field for victory. The new British champion in the 5,000 metres.
Thank you very much. This is the Hungarian Grand Prix on 5 Live. It's lap 50 of 70. Lando Norris leads, Charles Leclerc, Oscar Piastri third. Then it is George Russell, the top 4. Looks like Max Verstappen has just pitted now to get rid of his tyres, and will drop down the order. We'll see where he feeds out. But Verstappen, who was looking like he might stay out on the circuit and try and hold on to the end, in the end, coming into the pits.
Yeah, Lewis Hamilton making a nice move on Pierre Gasly there, but only for a lowly 14th place, not where we're used to seeing the 7-time world champ, as Piastri stalks the back of Charles Leclerc now. They look very, very close because of getting through bad traffic.
There's going to be a lot of traffic to go through. We're going to have to look after the front left.
It's not over yet. Huge amount of traffic to have to negotiate for Lando Norris. He's got 5, 6, 7, 8 cars, the back of the field essentially, approaching at a rapid rate. Meanwhile, Oscar Piastri down the start-finish straight with the aid of DRS. Leclerc moves to the inside to try and defend. Late on the brakes for Piastri as the orange McLaren sweeps past the scarlet red Ferrari. Piastri through and up into second place. Leclerc down to third.
That is what Oscar Piastri is so good at, and we've seen it now for the last couple of years. He gets behind someone and he's able to get the move done immediately. Great move by Piastri, and now the hunt is on for the win. It really is, Harry. I mean, if it was Charles Leclerc in second, I felt more confident for Lando Norris. Now it's Oscar Piastri. This is going to be a titanic battle.
Oh, lap 51 of 70. 8.5 seconds for Oscar Piastri to close down by the time we get to the checkered flag.
But 7 tenths in the first sector already.
Can he do it?
4 tenths in sector 2. He's coming for Lando Norris.
But when will those tyres scream enough? We've had a retirement, by the way, in the last few moments. Oliver Behrman having had, well, a 4 consecutive run of 11th place finishes, just missing out on points. He now won't even see the checkered flag. Issues for the British rookie in the Haas. We're now down to 19 cars. Lewis Hamilton in the Ferrari has just made a move on Carlos Sainz through turn 1 and has got himself up into 12th place, back to where he started. But the battle is on then, out in front. Lando Norris has the advantage, but 8.1 seconds the gap between himself and his teammate, who now has the fresher tyres. Charles Leclerc is third, having been dismissed by the Australian into turn 1. Russell, Alonso, the top 5. Bortoletto in 6th. Then comes Lance Stroll. Liam Lawson running a good race as well for Racing Bulls in 8th. Max Verstappen pitted twice and came out in 9th. Kimi Antonelli currently stealing the final points paying position in 10th.
Fernando Alonso and his young protege Bortoletto have been stuck together this afternoon, both on a one-stop strategy and both doing an incredible job. I expect Max Verstappen will creep up to the back of them by the end of the Grand Prix, but both of those would be, you know, a really good tip for driver of the day as well as the top 3.
Yeah, these two have been together since the start of the Grand Prix. Carlos Sainz coming into the pits, by the way, for another stop, having already stopped twice. So Sainz then moves down to 16th. Okay, we're down to under 7 seconds now. The gap between Norris and Piastri. Last lap around for Lando Norris, a 1:29. Oscar Piastri's a 1:19.5. He's got to close the gap, but then he's got to overtake, and that is almost the harder ask for Piastri.
Well, exactly. By doing 1:19.5s, he's asking a lot from those tyres. The thermal deck will be huge at that pace, and then he's got to get past.
This is so incredibly frustrating. We've lost all competitiveness. You just have to listen to me. I would have found a different way of managing those issues. Now it's just undrivable. It's a miracle if we finish on the podium.
Wow, strong words from the Ferrari driver of Charles Leclerc, thinking now that he might not even finish on the podium. He's got a 4-second advantage over George Russell, but last lap around, George Russell was a second quicker than the Ferrari driver and is closing that gap fast.
Yeah, something's clearly not working very well on Charles Leclerc's car right now. It worked well when he was in clean air, but in dirty air, as we saw with the McLaren, it's not working well for the Ferrari driver.
Leclerc dropping away then, and could see his podium disappear, which would be such a shame after an absolutely mega qualifying from the Monegasque. The race has not gone the way Ferrari would have liked it to, with their other car of Lewis Hamilton down in 12th at the moment and almost 5 seconds adrift of 11th place man Isaac Hadjar. Norris, the gap now 5.9 seconds. Oscar Piastri in second, Leclerc third, Russell, Alonso is fifth. He's now gapped his protege and the Sauber driver Gabriel Bortoleto by a couple of seconds now, but Bortoleto looking strong in sixth. He's got a couple of seconds to Lance Stroll. Then it's Liam Lawson, who is now under pressure actually from Max Verstappen in the Red Bull in ninth. Kimi Antonelli, the top 10. Hadjar, Hamilton, Ocon, Gasly, Albon, the top 15. Hulkenberg is 16th ahead of Sainz. Tsunoda and Colapinto, the 19 remaining cars, with Ollie Behrman retiring.
The next car for Lando Norris to lap is indeed the great Sir Lewis Hamilton, which is not what he'd want to be hearing going into the summer break.
It's a track where Lewis Hamilton has won 8 times. He's stood on the podium 12 times. He's set pole position 9 times and was the lowest we've ever seen him in Formula 1 yesterday.
If there's a safety car, we would take it for a hard tyre. You'd only lose out to Oscar.
Soft.
Straight away, Lando Norris. No, if there is a safety car in these closing stages, he doesn't want the hard, he would want the soft to go to the end. The tyre that has the least amount of life, however, is the quickest rubber.
Of course he wants the soft. He wants the tyre advantage over his teammate if that were to happen. Maybe McLaren are thinking, well, to give them both equal opportunity to win this race, put them both on the same tyre and let them fight it out. But Lando straight away, no, I want the grippiest, best tyre possible to try and win this race.
Well, they were suggesting that Piastri wouldn't stop in that scenario, weren't they? Because Norris would lose out to him. But yeah, it's all very tense. And I think what we're hearing on the radio here today is just the title fight has been all calm and lovey-dovey and everything so far this year. What we're hearing today is the intensity of the desire of both these drivers.
Well, they're only looking out for each other. It doesn't matter. I mean, it was pretty clear from Oscar Piastri. I don't really mind what the Ferrari does. Just let me know about Lando. I only want to beat Lando. And that's because they're both so far ahead in the championship. They're only racing each other for this world title.
If it finishes like this, Norris ahead of Piastri, the 16-point advantage that Piastri came into this race would fall to 9 points as we head into the summer break, and a long old month for our championship protagonists before we get going and re-emerge on the coast of the Netherlands in Zandvoort later on. But 5.5 seconds the gap now between Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. Last lap around, Piastri was about half a second quicker than Norris.
If it finished like this, and I guarantee you it won't for Max Verstappen's sake, he would be 97 points adrift of the championship lead.
Wow. What a season, what a year this is turning in for Max Verstappen and Red Bull, and not in the way they would have liked it. But on the other side, for Charles Leclerc in a Ferrari, when a race win was suddenly looking likely, okay, then a podium, no. It doesn't even look like a podium could happen for Charles Leclerc, because George Russell in the Mercedes continues to chase hard the Monegasque in third. 1.9 seconds the gap between those two.
And look at the traffic that Charles Leclerc is going to have to negotiate in the immediate future. 4 or 5 cars going through the final sector. Charles Leclerc goes through, swings the car through turn 14. 1, 2, 3, 4. A Haas, an Alpine, a Williams and a Sauber all in front. They're all going to have to jump out of the way. They'll be getting blue flags immediately. When they do, they've got 3 corners in which to get out of the way the Ferrari driver.
Yeah, they're having a whole scrap of their own though. That's always the tricky bit with these drivers, but they will have to get out the way. Otherwise, they do receive a penalty. It's the likes of Ocon, Gasly, Albon and Hulkenberg all ahead right now of that dicing pair. Lap 57 of 70. Lando Norris leads. The gap under 5 seconds between himself and Oscar Piastri. Leclerc third. Russell 4th, Alonso 5th, Bortoleto is 6th, Stroll, Lawson, Verstappen, Kimi Antonelli the top 10. They are your current point scorers. Then comes Hadjar, Hamilton, Ocon, Gasly and Albon the top 15, with Hülkenberg, Sainz, Tsunoda and Colapinto the 19 drivers that remain. One retirement in the form of Oliver Behrman's Haas as we get into the closing stages of this Hungarian Grand Prix. Let's check back in with Ellie Oldroyd at the cricket. Ellie.
275 for 4. England need 99 runs to win, so the target into double figures now, and this crowd at the Oval, every single milestone, they have applauded. They've been on their feet. They are absolutely gripped. Brook 94, Route 74. England 275 for 3. 99 runs to win and secure the first ever Anderson Tendulkar Trophy.
Continue coverage of the cricket over on Sports Extra Reaction as well on the Test Match Special podcast this evening on BBC Sounds. You can also watch highlights on Today at the Test on BBC Two from 7 o'clock this evening. That 58 of 70 here at the Hungarian Grand Prix. I mentioned we have run retirement. It's in the form of Ollie Behrman's Haas, and that is floor damage on the rear for Ollie Behrman's Haas. That has put him out of this Grand Prix.
It's very much a case of welcome to the jungle, isn't it, for Charles Leclerc right now, as we see pictures of Axl Rose in the pit lane as one of the celebrities. Yep, I just did that. He's having to get through all the back markers, and they're not really playing ball with him right now. But he doesn't have the pace to get onto the back of the Williams of Alex Albon. Surely they're going to have to get out of the way on the next lap.
Axl Rose from Guns N' Roses, of course, out here in the Hungarian paddock. Just not everyone is going to know.
Are you too young to know that or something?
Well, no. No.
How do you not know who that is?
No, I knew, but for the broad listener, Sam Bird.
Well, I think we should. You should be immediately replaced as we see Charles Leclerc diving down the inside of the Williams, and guess what? George Russell hot on his heels.
It's traffic paradise though as they try and navigate the Williams of Alex Albon. They both do, and that's put though Russell right on to the back of Charles Leclerc's Ferrari as they make their way up towards the left-hander of turn 4, but no way through there. Now Russell will just have to sit behind that Ferrari until he gets another shot at it, which will be down the main straight, unless he can try something late in the day into the chicane. No, he's not close enough. That gap and the battle for third separated by half a second. Gap out in front, 3.5 seconds. Norris being hunted down by Oscar Piastri.
It's getting very tense, isn't it? Very tense indeed. There's battles for the podium everywhere you look between the Ferrari and the Mercedes, and then the two McLarens slugging it out 17 seconds up the road from this battle. But wow, what an afternoon we've been treated to. Some great strategy, hasn't there, Harry?
Well, it's always typical, really, of the Hungarian Grand Prix. When it's tricky to overtake in a traditional sense, then you do rely on that strategy. And really, I think a lot of people might be having a couple of words with Fernando Alonso after this race, because he did what is turning into a bit of a trademark Alonsoism when it's a track where it's difficult to overtake, holding pretty much the entire field up behind him.
But he played it absolutely brilliantly. Yeah. He held them up for a few laps, then he started to build a lead, then he managed his tyres incredibly for a really, really late pit stop. 39 laps on the medium tyres, and now he's in 5th place and looking like for his best result of the season.
Yeah, it's a masterclass once more from Fernando Alonso, who's keeping his protege Gabriel Bortoleto at a distance, but just behind him in 4 seconds. Within the gap is the Sauber driver. Alonso in 5th. Ahead of him is George Russell, who still continues to struggle now to get past Charles Leclerc. He's done a good job at getting that gap down, but now he's right at the back, and this is what could happen to Oscar Piastri if he gets right to the back of Lando Norris, who leads this race. You've got to pass the driver, but you've also got to manage the traffic that they're now getting into as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The gap between Hadjar and Hamilton's looking quite tasty as well. Hamilton on the medium compound tyre, only half a second behind Hadjar. Could Lewis Hamilton be on for a point or two this afternoon? Not sure. The gap at the front down to 2.8 seconds, and George Russell within half a second of Charles Leclerc.
Yeah, Hamilton may be able to nick a point as George Russell down
on the inside with 10 laps to go in turn 1. He saw a gap on the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc, but it closed, and Leclerc holds on as they now run down towards the left-hander of turn 2. Leclerc is fighting with everything he has to hold on to this final place on the podium with 10 laps left to run in this Hungarian Grand Prix.
Yeah, I think George Russell would have used all of his battery and more for that move. Looks like he'd been harvesting and saving a bit on the laps previous, and then he's had a big wad of energy there. He might have to save a little bit over the next lap or two to have another attack. Charles Leclerc, though, looking very squirrely at the rear now.
They take such different lines through the chicane. Charles Leclerc was struggling to keep it on the track, while George Russell was much more neat and tidy with that precision of the Mercedes.
Well, it just looks like Charles Leclerc struggling for rear grip at the moment.
That was moving under braking, I committed. And he moved while braking. Almost lost his background. It's clearly not allowed.
Keep cool, mate. You'll get him.
That's what George Russell thought of the previous move. We're now 1 lap on, and he's going to try it again with the aid of DRS, which gives you a 20-kilometre speed advantage over the car in front. Moves to the inside, and there's almost contact. There is wheel-to-wheel stuff, but Russell muscles his way through on the Ferrari. Leclerc will try and get better traction on the exit, but Russell has the inside. Leclerc dives down the inside of the left-hander of turn 2 to try something, but it doesn't happen. And Russell holds on, makes the move stick. George Russell up to 3rd, Charles Leclerc down to 4th, and sees those podium chances slipping away.
Yeah, that was a late defensive move from Charles Leclerc there, really on the limit of what is allowed in the rule book, but George Russell held his own, got his elbows out and got the move done.
Let's quickly head for another update at the Oval. Ellie Aldred.
Harry Brooks' 100 has come up, and if England do make these runs that they need to win, he will have played a massive part in this for England. 101 not out, 286 for 3. England need another 88 runs, and he has played absolutely brilliantly. 180 run partnership between him and Root, but England 286 for 3.
And to the Women's Open, Royal Porthcawl, Catherine Downs.
Back-to-back birdies for England's Charlie Hull. She's playing the best golf on the golf course at the moment, moves to 8 under par into 2nd place on her own, and 2 shots behind the leader Miyu Yamashita, who is at 10 under.
Goal at Dundee, Kenny Crawford.
71 minutes gone and the visitors are back in front. Falkirk 1, Dundee United 2, and it's Ivan Dolcek, the Croatian, cutting in from the left-hand side and stabbing it in inside the left-hand post to make sure the visitors are ahead. Falkirk 1, Dundee United 2.
Lap 63 of 70 here at the Hungarian Grand Prix. You're listening to the Formula One right here on 5 Live, and a race that is going to go right down to the wire. Lando Norris is leading this Grand Prix, but having chased him hard, Oscar Piastri is now 1.5 seconds behind him and closing. We just heard from Lando Norris a few moments ago, the traffic making his way through the lapped runners, of which he's still got about 3 or 4 ahead of him, is really making this tricky for Norris to manage. Russell's now up to 3rd, having just got through on Charles Leclerc, and is actually reporting light spots of rain. Alonso is 5th, Bortoletto 6th, Stroll, Lawson, Verstappen, Antonelli the top 10, Hadjar and Lewis Hamilton the top 12, Ocon, Gasly, Hulkenberg is 15th, with Sainz, Albon and Tsunoda 18th, with Colapinto last of the runners. Ollie Behrman is out of this one as the gap continues to close. But Jenny Gow, are we now going to have to worry about the rain?
Well, I don't think it's going to hit the circuit. There's a dark blue cloud as I look across past the start-finish line. But actually the sun is starting to shine again. It's getting brighter down here. So maybe at some points there might be a spin spot of rain, but I don't think it's going to stick.
Well, George Russell once reported light rain, and it was actually sweat dripping down from his brow and helmet. So we always take it with a pinch of salt from George Russell. But this is getting dicey. This is getting spicy.
Where are the blue flags, Harry? Where are the blue flags to help Lando Norris out? They're not appearing, or they're not adhering to them. Lewis Hamilton, I think he needs to do his fellow Brit a favour here and get out of the way, because right now he's holding Lando Norris up as we see a huge oversteer from Max Verstappen down in 9th position. He hasn't been happy with his car handling all weekend, And now we're seeing a replay of Pierre Gasly being forced wide and losing 2 positions in one corner.
Yeah, Nico Hülkenberg.
And Lewis Hamilton has got out of the way. Lewis Hamilton has moved out of the way of the 2 McLarens. There's 2 more bits of traffic to clear. That's Hadjar and Antonelli. But Piastri now within DRS. This is coming down to the absolute wire.
The gap is now under a second. It's goals galore, though, at Falkirk. Kenny Crawford.
Yeah, 74 minutes gone now, and Falkirk are back level again. Falkirk 2, Dundee United 2. Like their first goal, brilliant work down the right-hand side by Keelan Adams. It fell to Ethan Ross in the penalty spot. His shot took a deflection and trickled in at the left-hand corner. It's Falkirk 2, Dundee United 2.
We'll also have Celtic against St Mirren from 4:30 right here on 5 Live. After us here at the Formula One. Less than a second now between Lando Norris, who leads this Grand Prix, and Oscar Piastri, who is chasing him and trying to extend his advantage at the top of the championship standings as we head into the summer break. Come the checkered flag, round the final corner we go to start lap 66. The first dose of DRS, the drag reduction system comes for Oscar Piastri when you're in the second of the car in front. The rear wing flap flies open and gives you a speed advantage. He closes up with 5 laps to go into turn 1. He closes but can't find a way through. The gap now half a second as they are also having to navigate the traffic. And this time it's one of the racing bulls of Isaac Hadjar who does get out the way as quickly as he can.
Yeah, one more bit of traffic to get through, and that's Kimi Antonelli in the Mercedes, who's currently running in P10. That traffic has really hampered Lando Norris and his tyres.
And as they approach the chicane, this is almost the worst place to catch traffic coming into the middle sector. It's just full of medium speed corners that flow into each other and sweep left and sweep right. The 2 McLarens in the same shot on the same piece of tarmac as they carve their way through the Hungarian hills. The right-hander of 11 downhill slightly now towards the 90-degree right-hander of turn 12. We can see 10th place runner Kimi Antonelli. He gets the blue flags, he slows down, he gets nicely out of the way. The fight is on, the fight is fair between Norris and Piastri. Will go to the end. There is no more traffic for a little while yet. Their next traffic will be Max Verstappen as we start lap 67 of 70, and the gap just going up slightly for Oscar Piastri there, but still crucially under a second.
Every time Lando gets a bit of clean air, his exits start to get very, very good. Oscar Piastri there pushing the boundaries of what his McLaren can do under braking, just trying to get closer to Lando Norris. This is, as a McLaren person, this is horrible to watch, Harry. This is really horrible. But I mean, great tension, but this is really, really crucial for who wants to win this World Championship, because these 2 are really fighting it out here this afternoon.
And there is a slight tyre disparity as well. Oscar Piastri on slightly fresher tyres, almost 10 lap fresher tyres than Lando Norris. But overtaking here is so difficult around the Hungaroring. Oscar Piastri will now be feeling the frustrations of being stuck behind Piastri of Norris. He'll be feeling the heat off of that McLaren rear wing in front of him. The dirty air that gets kicked up from the car, cutting a hole in the air out in front. Norris will have the benefit of free air in front of him, helping him manage his tyres slightly with that cleaner air as we go around the final corner once more down the start-finish straight as a time penalty comes for Pierre Gasly for causing a collision. Gasly's all the way down in 17th, so that's not really doing much for his race as Piastri moves to the inside. It's a late dive, but it's nowhere near close enough. But he's showing that he wants that lead. He wants to challenge Lando Norris, and he is running out of laps to do so.
Yeah, that's 2 laps in a row now where he's really thrown it into turn 1, braked super deep and super late to try and catch Lando Norris sleeping, but Lando's aware of what's happening.
Lando Norris needs this swing before the summer break. He was on a good run of Grand Prix wins in Austria, wins in Silverstone. He was starting to really bring that pressure back to Oscar Piastri, but then Piastri fought back in Belgium beautifully. And now we come to Hungary, the last Grand Prix before the summer break. And who will sleep well tonight? Who will enter it feeling strong, feeling confident? it all comes down to these last couple of laps. Norris leading 0.6 of a second between himself and his teammate Oscar Piastri.
I mean, during the first stint, it looked like it was all to play for Charles Leclerc, but he's now 31 seconds back, 32 seconds back from Lando Norris. The Ferrari's just fallen away from the front of the field. He's now 10.5 seconds behind George Russell in third. As Oscar Piastri has another go, does he down the inside?
He locks up, does Oscar Piastri, the front right locks, the smoke flies, but he just about avoids a big collision. Piastri is not waiting around here. He knows he has minimal opportunities to take the win of this Hungarian Grand Prix. He has, in reality, only one more chance at taking the win here in Hungary. We know what our reaction was like in the commentary box, but Jenny Gow, the pit wall must be pulling their hair out.
Yeah, there's a lot of foot tapping on the pit wall. Zach Brown, Andrea Stella, they can't watch this, but they have to.
Piastri close through the chicane and then the middle sector. We're about to get another look at it, Sam, and Piastri comes from a long way back.
He does indeed, but he had such momentum down the straight, and it's just that front right lock-up right at the end of braking. So close to touching each other there.
Go racing. Same reminder, Oscar.
Remember how we go racing. A reminder to Oscar Piastri. I have to say that move never really looked on, but here we go. One final attempt it will be, unless something happens. A miracle is needed for Oscar Piastri. We go down towards turn one once more. The DRS is open. Here comes Piastri closing in on Lando Norris. He's late on the brakes, takes a wider line, swings into turn two, tries to get the better traction. We'll get another dose of DRS. Can he slide down the inside of turn two? No, he can't. He takes the long way round as Norris slightly defends through the right-hand kink of three. And is that the moment gone for Oscar Piastri? Overtaking opportunities are limited now. Line astern through the left-hander of four and up towards the hill at the chicane. A dive down the inside at the chicane, maybe? No, Piastri is too far back. But these McLaren drivers fighting hard.
Oh, they've both driven brilliant races for different reasons, but Oscar Piastri's tried everything to overtake Lando Norris in the closing stages of this race, but he's really running out of options now, Harry.
Just a few more corners left to go of this final Grand Prix before we head into the summer shutdown. The McLaren drivers are fighting hard all the way to the end. For our championship leader, Oscar Piastri, it hasn't quite gone his way, but what a recovery drive. And after a poor first lap, it's turned into a sublime finish for Lando Norris, who wins the Hungarian Grand Prix and closes the gap to his teammate Piastri in the championship as we head off for the summer. And he celebrates in style, a fist in the air from Lando Norris, just over half a second, splitting the two McLaren drivers, with George Russell stealing the final place on the podium in third.
What a race at the end that was. That was difficult to watch for me at the end, Harry, but my goodness me, Lando and Oscar, you gave us one heck of a show. Great race by the McLaren pair, and hats off to George Russell for extracting the maximum out of his Mercedes.
You can hear the applause from the crowd screaming for Lando Norris as he waves to the crowd. Let's hear from him.
Yes. Mega job, mate. Mega job.
Lovely. Good racing. Good strategy. Good call. Well thought. Thank you, guys.
12 months ago, it was a very different story for Lando Norris, who had to follow the team orders and let his teammate Piastri back through for what ended up being his first career win. Piastri, though, on this occasion, 12 months later, having to settle for second.
Meanwhile, take a bow, Fernando Alonso, P5, best of the rest, and then his young protege, the boy that he manages.
Well done, mate. Well done. Close, Oscar. Really close. Great racing. Good job. So, Oscar, good stuff. Great racing. We're going to shut down, still leading both championships. So, well done. Good first half of the season.
Yeah, no reply there from Oscar Piastri. I think he'll be a little bit disappointed, but he still drove a great race. As I was saying, Bortoletto, P6 in the Sauber. Unbelievable job. Lance Stroll P7, Lawson P8. Max Verstappen will be disappointed as he comes home in P9. And Kimi Antonelli, one lap down, rounds out the top 10.
The gap closes at the top of the championship. 9 points separating Oscar Piastri, who continues to lead. Lando Norris in second. From Hungary here, though, let's head back to the oval. Ellie Oldroyd.
And Harry Brook is finally out. 111 he made in the end. 195 the partnership with Joe Root for the fourth wicket, but finally going for a massive shot off Akash Deep, losing his bat, skewing the shot out to mid-off, caught by Mohammed Siraj, who dropped him when he was on 19. He made him pay for that. 301 for 4 England. They need 73 more runs to win. Root 83 and Jacob Bethel, the new batter. What have you got?
Thanks, Ellie. We've got team news at Celtic. Mike Miney.
League game of last season. Now it's the opener, the Scottish champion Celtic Open against St Mirren, the visitors, the only team outside the Old Firm to finish in the top 6 in each of the last 3 seasons. Debuts given by Brendan Rodgers to Benjamin Negron and Kieran Tierney, who's now back in his second spell. For St Mirren, 3 full debutants as Killian Phillips starts also since signing permanently for the club. Kick-off 4:30.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, following us here on 5 Live, but still debriefing and having to take a bit of a breath after that Hungarian Grand Prix. Lando Norris heads over to the CEO of McLaren, Zak Brown, for an embrace, and then straight to his mechanics who wait for him in the Parc Fermé area. Oscar Piastri just surveys as he loosens his helmet and takes it up over his head, removes the hands device on the neck. George Russell in third as well. A brilliant run for the British driver. We didn't expect him to be on the podium, but he takes his 6th one of the season. And then fantastic results for Fernando Alonso in 5th. Charles Leclerc will be bitterly disappointed to finish 4th and off the podium. At one point leading this Grand Prix, having started from pole position as they make their way into the Parc Fermé area, and Jenny Gow's got the best view of it.
I certainly do. Zak Brown just going down the line, giving high fives to all of his team, and then Oscar Piastri just does the same in front of me. A bit of sweat just trickling down his brow. It was awfully a bit hot out there, but I tell you what, as he just touches hands with George Russell and does a high five, Lando Norris will be ecstatic with that. He stood on his car, he pumped his fists over and over again. That was a hard-fought win. At times, we didn't know if we'd get it, but he has.
He has indeed. Wow. I mean, I've had to take a deep breath after that, Sam Bird. I don't know about you. I think a word has to be said on George Russell, just behind that pair, nicking a podium. We didn't expect that at the start of the weekend.
Absolutely not. We thought that the Mercedes would be out of the equation. We thought it would be between, obviously the win was always going to be between the two McLarens, but we thought the Ferraris would be up there. Didn't expect to see George Russell. They've really struggled for pace recently, the Mercedes duo, but he's back on form and now he can have a decent summer break.
Norris wins then ahead of Piastri, Russell third, Charles Leclerc fourth, Alonso fifth, Gabriel Bortoletto with his best result of the season in sixth ahead of Stroll. Then comes Lawson, Verstappen and Antonelli. But let's hear from our top 3, speaking to James Hinchcliffe.
And for the 9th time in his career, Lando Norris is your winner here in Hungary. Lando, talk to us about that last stint, battling with Oscar Piastri, your teammate. It came so close there, but you held him off.
Yeah, I'm dead. I'm dead. It was tough. We weren't really planning on the one stop at the beginning, but after the first lap was kind of our only option to get back into things. But it was tough. Yeah, the final stint with Oscar catching I was pushing flat out, so yeah, my voice has gone a little bit. Pretty good, rewarding, even more because of that, but the perfect result today.
So you kind of mentioned how it wasn't the original plan, but after that first lap, you fell back to 5th. When they came on the radio and said, hey, what do you think about a one-stop? You almost sounded indifferent. You said, yeah, sure, let's give it a try. At what point did it really start feeling like you could pull off this win?
I I didn't think it would probably get us the win. I thought maybe it would get us at least into second. I knew our pace was good, even in the first stint behind George. I couldn't get past, but the pace was strong. So I knew if I just had some clean air and I could push, that I could maybe make things work, and that's what we did. So yeah, it's always a bit of a gamble, these kind of things, but it also requires, no mistakes, good laps, good strategy, all these things, and that's what we had today. So I'm very happy.
Managed to close the championship gap down a little bit heading into that summer break. How much of a relief is it now to take this time off, knowing that momentum is kind of on your side right now?
I mean, I think we're so tightly forward, it's hard to say if momentum's on anyone's side, but we're fighting hard. I think both of us. It's fun. It's tough but fun racing against with Oscar, and great for us as a team. Another 1-2, our 200th win actually in Formula One. So no, credits to Oscar. I mean, he put up a good charge, and I just about held on. So I look forward to plenty more of these.
Right. Flawless final stint. Congratulations on the win.
Mate. Thank you so much.
5th win of the season for Lando Norris, the victor here in Hungary.
All right, Oscar, I know no driver likes coming second place in a race. You came from 12 seconds back after that second stop. Just walk us through that final stint, tracking down Lando, and then ultimately that attempt with 2 to go down in turn 1.
Yeah, I pushed as hard as I could. I think after I saw Lando going for a 1, I knew I was going to have to overtake on track, which is much easier said than done around here. So, tried a few things. It was a gamble either way, and today, unfortunately, we were just on the wrong side of it. So, the team did a great job. The car really came alive in the second half of the race, and the car's been great all weekend. So, thank you to the team, and looking forward to a couple of weeks off.
Were you surprised when you got the call from the team that Lando had switched to the 1 stop?
Yes and no. I mean, at that point, he didn't really have much to lose, so it wasn't a huge surprise. I don't know if trying to undercut Leclerc was the right call in the end, but we can go through it after.
Is it easy to look at it now and think maybe you tried that move in turn 1 a lap too early, or do you think you pulled it off with the best chance you could?
I think I needed to be at least a couple of tenths closer, which was going to take a mistake from Lando to achieve that. And, I feel like that was going to be my best chance. You never want to try and save it for the next lap, and then it never comes. So I thought I would at least try, and, not quite.
Yeah, well, you got a smile on your face. Obviously, you still had some fun out there. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Oscar Piastri then still has the advantage in the championship.
George Russell coming home P3 today. George, I think after practice, you got to say that it looked like Mercedes was third best team at best. So are you pretty proud coming home with the podium today?
Yeah, really happy with the race today. Obviously, yesterday qualifying was a bit of a surprise. This whole weekend's been a bit surprising for everyone, but so happy to be back on the podium. It was a bit dicey with Charles at some point.
Yeah, walk us through that battle a little bit. We saw some close moments, some radio banter back and forth. How did you see it from your seat?
It's one of those when you sort of commit to a bit of a dive bomb. If a driver in front moves, you're already right on the limit of grip, and there's not much room for manoeuvre. So I think we made contact on the second time, but just glad to get through it, and nice way to go into the break.
You guys have came with a slightly different setup on the car this weekend, kind of reverting back a little bit. It seems like it's trending the right direction. Does that give you hope into the summer break that you guys are getting back on pace?
I mean, it's definitely better than the races we've had so far, so really pleased with that.
All right, enjoy some time off. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Well, I am about 10 feet away from where those interviews have just taken place, here right at the entrance to the pit lane. So George Russell is still just standing in front of us with his baby blue baseball cap and his baby blue helmet after that third place, and he now is making his way inside. We can see those two McLarens right in front of us as well. Well, what an effort that was for Lando Norris, and he needed it, Sam Bird, desperately today. You could feel the relief in his voice, and I can tell you down here we could see it on his face.
That is a huge win for him going into the summer break, isn't it? Really, really well deserved and well needed. I mean, McLaren, they've pretty much wrapped up and consolidated the team's championship, but this drivers' championship is going to go absolutely down to the wire.
Lando's car is just being dragged past us here, and you can see all of the blisters and pain, if you like, that the tyres have taken. What an effort it was to keep that on the road and get it down to finish in P1 here. So Norris's car is being literally lifted away from us and into the garage. Meanwhile, Oscar Piastri's car is being dragged away in the other direction. Zak Brown is just sort of standing, McLaren CEO, about 10 feet in front of us, arms folded, big smile on his face. He's just given a big double fist bump there to another member of the team. Harry Benjamin, commentator, is there as well. We're just standing under the podium here. And if Norris today had not been able to get that over the line in first, I don't know. This feels like one of those days, doesn't it, that we might look back on after Abu Dhabi at the end of the season and think, was this a moment?
Yeah, I think we will. I think he needed this today above all else. And let's remember that he had a really poor first lap and had a comeback.
So Zak Brown is really, really close to us now. He's got that kind of look on his face, which is really, really steely. And he's quite an open guy himself, a little bit like Lando Norris. Jenny Gow is down here with me as well. I mean, obviously a fantastic result, and a big result that for George Russell as well. He needed that.
Yeah, for all three of them, a good result. I think Piastri will have some questions to ask of the team. Why did they have to go on those alternate strategy? What was that all about? But just looking at Zak Brown, he's not as exuberant as I expected him to be.
Charlie Hull might be getting a bit more exuberant right now at the Women's Open, though, Kat Downs.
Yep, all going really well for the Englishwoman. A third birdie of the day on the par 3 8th. She's 3 under for her round and now 1 behind the leaders. Her 6 under 66 yesterday was her lowest round at the Women's Open in over a decade, and she's kept her pedal to the metal here. 9 under par, 1 behind the leader, Japan's Miyu Yamashita.
Sam Bird, do you think we saw a bit of a shift here toward the back end of that race in terms of what the individual McLaren drivers are willing to do to win these crucial individual races? I mean, that was properly exciting and dramatic, and Piastri was slinging it left, right and centre trying to get in front of Norris.
Yeah, it was properly exciting, all right, but I think that you had two different drivers absolutely giving it their all with very different tyre lives. You had Lando Norris, who was hanging on for dear life on a very old set of hards, and then you had Oscar Piastri coming at him, hunting him down, hungry to get past. It's very challenging when you've used up all your tyre life and you've got to try and hang on, but that's why Lando's so exhausted at this stage, because it's tough to hang on to. Both of them want this just as much as each other.
Well, here comes Lando Norris. Let's listen to the reception as he comes on the podium. That was a triple fist punch from Lando Norris as he stands on that top set and runs his fingers through his hair. Zak Brown with the biggest, broadest "I'm the CEO of the top two" grin, and this anthem needs no introduction. Well, the pride on the face there of Lando Norris was there for everybody at the Hungaroring to see. We're now seeing the trophies being handed out, and Lando Norris has it in his hands. It's a big, white, ornate-looking vase, and he hoists it above his head and keeps the most careful of hands on that thing, because I can tell you he has had a bit of history with dropping trophies. He was being very, very cautious. He also gets a winner's medal as well, so he takes off his baseball cap and that's put over his head. I'm just looking at the body language as well of Oscar Piastri. He's got his hands on his hips. He's giving a real stare just out at the grandstand behind us, which is still absolutely rammed. George Russell is there as well. He's beaming broad. We're having the constructor as well, given the big shield sealed for the day. There's a big celebration. McLaren, of course, the winning constructor today, with their drivers finishing first and second. He gets a big shield. It almost looks like the shield that gets handed out to the winner in the Wimbledon women's singles. And now Oscar Piastri, he gets his trophy as well. Just a smaller version of what we've just seen handed out. And so it's going to be time now for the champagne to be uncorked. George Russell gets his trophy as well. And it's kind of it's not even that half-hearted actually, as a trophy lift from George Russell. We get one thumb up in the air from the British driver. Two Union Jacks go left and right. And here comes the ticker tape. Green and white and red, the colours of Hungary. The champagne bottles burst open. They come over the top of the podium and almost rain down on us here in the pit lane. Lando Norris stamps his bottle on the floor in his trademark style. He's doused by George Russell. Lando Norris, the winner here in Hungary. He has cut the gap to his teammate Oscar Piastri to 9 points, and the ticker tape in Hungary is now swirling all around us in the little slight breeze that there is here in the pit lane. It's wafting across the track. There's George Russell with one more celebratory fist pump. Who's celebrating at Falkirk this afternoon, Kenny Crawford?
Yeah, well, it's a point apiece. It's Falkirk 2, Dundee United 2. A point for the hosts in their first game back in the top flight for 15 years. United were twice ahead. Assured finishes by on loan Barnsley striker Max Waters and Croatian Ivan Dolcek, but twice the Bairns showed the character to bounce back. Dylan Tate curling into the top corner and Ethan Ross's deflected effort trickling over the line. Excellent action, and Falkirk look like they'll be a very plucky addition to the Premiership. Falkirk 2, Dundee United 2.
Well, here at the Hungaroring, the celebrations for McLaren are really getting underway. 40th anniversary race, it really delivered. Lando Norris is still on the top step of the podium as the other drivers have left. Now he just readjusts his baseball cap, has one last look at the Budapest sky, hoists the trophy above his head yet again. It's a great drama here at the Hungaroring, but the big story of the day could yet come at something much more oval-shaped. Ellie Oldroyd.
Yes, and a damp and drizzly oval, but England are 57 runs away from victory, 317.